Chapter 1689. Gu Xingyin slowly rotated the barbecue rack in her hand. She was thinking about all kinds of things. Done. A strong aroma came from the barbecue rack. Gu Xingyin sniffed it gently. The white tiger lay quietly beside her. Gu Xingyin looked at the white tiger with some regret. After all, it was a puppet. It was different from a real life after all. In this situation, if the white tiger was really a beast, it would probably jump up and eat the meat. Gu Xingyin slowly cut the meat with a clean knife and chewed. It tasted good. After eating the whole leg of the lamb, Gu Xingyin wrapped the remaining leg with a clean leaf and prepared to eat it for dinner. She walked to her big room. The half-completed puppet doll was still lying there alone. Gu Xingyin planned to finish it. It was also because Gu Xingyin had already accomplished so much. Otherwise, Gu Xingyin did not intend to continue. She had thought about it. She would not make so many puppets. After she finished the puppet doll in her hand, she would go to the capital. Instead of waiting for others to come to her door, it was better to seize the opportunity and make the first move. Anyway, Chen Qiqi was not a good person. Gu Xingyin would not bear any burden because of it. Puppet dolls were different from clay sculptures and so on. His 4 limbs were separated and refined with special materials, and then pieced together. This way, it could ensure the flexibility of the joints. As for the special materials, Gu Xingyin only knew that they were collected according to the ancient books. Some materials with very obscure names were refined with a very special method. The finished product refined in this way looked similar to porcelain. It was smooth, delicate, and very beautiful. However, the degree of hardness was completely different from porcelain. Take the white tiger for example. Basically, if it fell from a height of dozens of meters, the possibility of the white tiger being crippled was not high. For Gu Xingyin, who received Dean's memory and had the invincible system, refining the materials and carving the appearance of the body was not difficult. The key was the runes at the back. He couldn't afford to make even the slightest mistake. If there was even the slightest mistake, this puppet would be completely destroyed. Gu Xingyin quietly looked at the porcelain doll in front of her. He looked very small, about the size of a person's head. His skin was snow-white, and his face was delicate. His eyes were tightly shut, and he was wearing a silver-white ancient-style robe. He looked no different from a normal child. At this stage, the doll would probably be a very beautiful piece of art. Perhaps someone would spend a lot of money to buy it for their collection. Gu Xingyin took a deep breath and decided to wait until nighttime. He would wait until the moon was out and the yin qi was thicker, then he would draw the runes and condense the yin qi on his body. She got up and realized that after sitting for an entire afternoon, her entire body was stiff and sore. Gu Xingyin glanced around the large house. Looking at all kinds of humanoid and beast-shaped puppets, she felt lucky that this place was always brightly lit. If she suddenly entered such a place at night, she would probably be shocked. When she went out, the sun had already set in the west. Gu Xingyin went to pick some edible mushrooms and used the remaining mutton to boil a pot of soup. She put the mushrooms into the soup and heated up the leftover roast mutton leg for dinner. Chapter 1690. The woman's eyes lit up. Really? The man's face darkened when he heard her questioning tone. He snorted coldly. What? You don't believe me? The woman sensed his displeasure and quickly smiled. How could that be? I naturally believe in your abilities. It's just that my brother has always been lucky. The bald man's expression eased a little, but he still looked disdainful. So what if he's lucky? He won't be able to escape from me just because he's lucky. The woman's face lit up with joy. She took the initiative to hug the man's arm and gently rubbed it against her chest. The meaning behind this was self-evident. Then, Qiqi, I'll wait for your good news. The following scene was not suitable for children. They could only see two naked bodies tightly entwined together on a large black bed. Just as Chen Biue's consciousness was about to fall into a deep sleep, a huge suction force suddenly came from somewhere. It passed through the layers of gray fog and sucked him in. Oh no! The bald man with runes on his head, who had just finished a round of sex and was resting on the bed, suddenly opened his eyes. What's wrong? Chen Qiqi asked in a daze as she nestled in his arms. The tame headmaster's expression was very ugly. The black magic I cast on your brother has been broken. What? Chen Qiqi immediately woke up. What's going on? Didn't you say it was foolproof? Chen Qiqi's expression was also a little ugly. Now you're telling me it's been broken. Chen Qiqi was actually a little uneasy. She thought about her brother's usual methods. If he found out that she was the one who had set him up, the tame headmaster said, I used black magic to seal his soul in an area with no spiritual energy. According to the original plan, his soul would be destroyed in 10 days, and he would die in this world. He frowned. But just now, I felt that his soul suddenly disappeared from the area of no spiritual energy. It was as if something had barged in and forcibly taken away your brother's soul. Chen Qiqi was a little anxious. Then what do we do now? If my brother wakes up, neither of us will be able to escape. The tame headmaster said calmly, don't worry. He closed his eyes and muttered something under his breath, as if he was sensing something. After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his expression relaxed. Chen Qiqi looked at him and felt a little relieved. How is it? The tame headmaster said, you and I don't have to worry too much. I just sense that your brother's soul hasn't returned to his body. Instead, he can no longer be sensed in this world. Chen Qiqi was delighted. So? The tame headmaster smiled and said, so, your brother is either dead or, some evil sorcerer just happened to cast a spell and took his soul. After the huge rock in his heart was lifted, his mood became much better. The taming master looked at Chen Qiqi in his arms and couldn't help but reach out to pinch her face. Don't worry. Even if your brother isn't dead, I'm afraid that his life will be worse than death if he falls into the hands of such a person. Chen Qiqi's heart finally relaxed. However, she still said in a low voice, I don't wish for him to live a life worse than death. It's better if he dies quickly so as to avoid any more trouble. Chapter 1691. Chen Biue felt as though his entire body was being pulled. He did not know how much time had passed as the world spun around him. His body, his thoughts, his everything seemed to be constantly being torn apart and reassembled. Until everything settled down. He felt that his body was very heavy. It was as though he was trapped inside something and was unable to move. He was also unable to open his eyes. However, he could still see his surroundings. It seemed to be night time as his surroundings were not bright at all. However, he could clearly see his surroundings. A woman in black was sitting before him. This woman was very good-looking. However, her appearance was very abnormal. It looked like, what did she look like? His thoughts were in a mess and he was unable to recall anything. The woman used her pale and thin hand to draw something on his body. Originally, he should not have felt it. However, he slowly sensed that as the mysterious runes on his body became denser, his entire body was slowly filled with power. His feelings towards the woman in black also became clearer. Oh, the smell on her body was very comfortable. There seemed to be something on her body that attracted him greatly. He wanted to get close to her, hug her, and eat her up. After finishing the last rune, Gu Xingyin gave a long sigh of relief. She opened her eyes and put down the brush in her somewhat sore hand. In truth, not even half an hour had passed. However, Gu Xingyin felt that her entire body was lacking in strength. She lowered her eyes to look at the little doll in front of her. His body, which was originally white like porcelain, was now covered with countless runes. Under the dim moonlight, the doll appeared to be filled with a sense of mystery. Gu Xingyin moved her hand and put the little silver robe on the doll. She also felt the results of her work. It actually managed to condense so much yin energy. She was extremely shocked. In terms of energy, this little puppet doll was almost comparable to the white tiger. Just as Gu Xingyin was feeling shocked, the little puppet doll in front of her suddenly opened its eyes. Gu Xingyin was shocked. Then, she saw the beautiful pair of jade-green eyes of the doll. Under the dim moonlight, the pair of eyes were like two clusters of ghostly fire, looking somewhat horrifying. It actually opened its eyes on its own. Could it be that this puppet doll already has its own consciousness? Gu Xingyin mumbled doubtfully. He blinked and looked at the woman in front of him. With his current ability to understand, he still couldn't fully understand the meaning of her words. But it was fine. Gu Xingyin looked at the tiny puppet doll that was no more than 20 centimeters tall. It blinked its eyes and started moving on its own. His movements were not stiff at all. He crawled from her gown all the way to her hand. What was he trying to do? Gu Xingyin soon found out. Because the little doll suddenly hugged her finger and started nibbling on it. His teeth were very sharp. In an instant, they had already pierced through Gu Xingyin's flesh and sunk into her skin, sucking her sweet blood. The moment she felt the pain, Gu Xingyin raised her hand and wanted to throw the doll away. However, the system stopped her. Host, wait a moment. Gu Xingyin was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, there were more things in her mind. Some messy thoughts were vaguely mixed with emotions like delicious and delicious. Chapter 1692. Gu Xingyin was stunned. This was the puppet doll's thought process. While she was still in shock, the puppet doll in front of her suddenly stopped sucking her blood. He was still hugging Gu Xingyin's finger, but gently and reluctantly, he retracted his teeth. Because he saw that when he bit down, this person seemed to be in pain. Although he liked to eat, she was in pain. The puppet doll hesitated for a few seconds, but still decided to give up on the delicacy. He even stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Xingyin's finger a few times. Under his licking, the small wound miraculously stopped bleeding and became much smaller. Then, the two people, one big and one small, started staring at each other. Gu Xingyin had never encountered such a situation before. She asked the system, "What kind of situation is this?" The system replied, "I have not encountered such a situation either. Host, please wait for a moment. I will quickly go through the information." The system quickly said, "There are no special records of this situation." However, according to the information passed down by the puppet masters, the system deduced that when the host created this puppet doll, the host already had a mental connection with it. Furthermore, the host used his own blood to feed it. Now, the host seems to have formed a blood contract between the two of them. So now, the puppet doll is equivalent to the host's magical item. However, it has its own consciousness. The host should be able to share consciousness with it. Gu Xingyin nodded. Yes, I seem to be able to sense its thoughts. Speaking of this, Gu Xingyin wanted to facepalm. Because at this moment, from the puppet doll's thought process, she felt a strong sense of, I like you very much, I want to eat you, delicious, and other similar emotions. Without a doubt, the delicious object that it wanted to eat was herself. However, what warmed Gu Xingyin's heart was that there was another wave of emotions in the puppet doll's mind. It was probably the thoughts of, like, pain, and, don't want, pain. While Gu Xingyin was talking to the system, the puppet doll gave up looking at Gu Xingyin. It grabbed Gu Xingyin's clothes and started to climb up. He crawled from her hand to her shoulder, then found her collarbone and lay on it with satisfaction. So warm, so fragrant, delicious, hold it in. Gu Xingyin didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she sensed the information transmitted by the little doll. System, he wants to eat me. The system calmly comforted her, "Host, you don't have to worry. For the puppet consciousness condensed from Yin Qi, the woman of Yin Hour has a great attraction to them. Furthermore, your blood has been sucked by him. After the two of you formed a contract, as a puppet doll that has just gained sentience, the current host is similar to his mother. He will like you very much, want to get close to you, and even want to monopolize you. This kind of puppet will not bite back at the host." Gu Xingyin nodded. She did feel a strong desire in the puppet doll's consciousness, but there was another stronger desire that seemed to be restraining him. And in the dark, Gu Xingyin also had a feeling that this puppet doll was not only unwilling to hurt her in its consciousness, but also seemed to be bound in its soul that it could not hurt its creator. Chapter 1693. However, she kept hearing him say that he wanted to eat her. Gu Xingyin still could not get used to it. Something seemed to be engraved in the depths of this body. Gu Xingyin's consciousness swept across the puppet doll, and then cut off some kind of connection. Then, she realized that the emotions of the other consciousness, which had been constantly making its presence known in her mind, had disappeared. She heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Xingyin tilted her head and looked at the satisfied puppet doll lying on her neck. She felt helpless, but strangely satisfied. She slowly stood up, and a strong sense of fatigue came over her. She did not feel this way when she was sitting down, but once she stood up, Gu Xingyin felt as if all the strength in her body had been sucked out. She stood for a long time before she slowly recovered and walked towards her little wooden house. What she needed most now was rest. As for the rest, she would deal with it tomorrow morning. Gu Xingyin forced herself to walk into her house. After a simple wash, she fell asleep almost instantly. She was really too tired. Faint moonlight shone in through the open window. The puppet doll, which seemed to have no signs of life all this time, moved slightly. He used his short and chubby hands to prop himself up and sat up. His gaze swept across the room. I don't know what this place is." After looking around, the puppet doll looked at the woman lying on the ground. She had her eyes closed, and her expression was as cold as when she was awake. The puppet doll tilted his head and looked at her quietly. After an unknown period of time, he raised his little hand. His dark purple fingernails looked exactly like Gu Xingyin's. He seemed to be curious as he gently scratched Gu Xingyin's lips. He was really careful as if he was scratching an itch. Although he did not have any complicated consciousness, the puppet doll still knew that his fingernails seemed to be very powerful. He could not use too much strength. Otherwise, she would be in trouble. So soft, so warm. That was the puppet doll's feeling. His own body was just a pile of cold materials, and the body temperature of a human was a very attractive existence to him. Not to mention, from the moment he saw the person in front of him, he couldn't help but want to get close to her. The puppet doll seemed to be addicted to playing with it. After a while, it would poke Gu Xingyin's mouth. Then, it would open its emerald-like eyes and carefully look at Gu Xingyin. After making sure that she wouldn't wake up, he continued to poke her. He treated this as an extremely fun game, and never got tired of it. The system, it didn't need to rest as it silently watched the puppet doll's actions. The system actually wanted to shout loudly in Gu Xingyin's mind, "Wake up, host. There's an effective pervert taking advantage of you while you're sleeping." But in the end, the system remained silent. This was because it could tell that the puppet doll seemed to be a little fellow that didn't know anything. Moreover, its behavior showed that it really liked to get close to its host. Of course, the main reason why the system remained silent was that the host was really too tired. It rarely had such good sleep, so it didn't want to disturb it. After playing for a while, the puppet doll finally seemed to be satisfied. It looked left and right, and still chose the warm spot between Gu Xingyin's neck. It closed its eyes and fell asleep with its host. Chapter 1694. The next day, Gu Xingyin was woken up by a disturbance. She felt her hair being pulled by something. The other party didn't have much strength, so it didn't hurt. But this feeling of having a part of her body being played with in the palm of someone else's hand was really unpleasant. In a daze, she casually pulled her hair and flipped over impatiently. This was great. Originally, the puppet doll was sitting on the side of Gu Xingyin's bed, holding her long hair and twirling it in circles. However, his technique was obviously not very good. He accidentally wrapped his wrists and fingers around the hair and was trying hard to untie it. Then, with Gu Xingyin's tug, he flipped over. The puppet doll, whose fingers and wrists were entangled, was pulled by a huge force just like that, Bayu. In a perfect parabola, the small figure flew directly from the inside of the bed to the floor outside the window. This time, the hair was untied. In a daze, Gu Xingyin heard the sound of something falling to the ground. She opened her eyes and saw a small figure in front of her in a prostrating position on the ground, trying hard to get up. Gu Xingyin, she silently thought about it and realized that she seemed to have done something terrible. Just as she was feeling awkward, the puppet doll finally sat up on its own. However, she didn't know if it was because Gu Xingyin had a bad taste when she made it, but this doll's limbs were short and small, but it was very fat. Gu Xingyin watched as the doll tried to stand up on its own several times, but in the end, it sat back down on its butt. Pfft! Gu Xingyin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Early in the morning, her mood improved because of this. Hearing the laughter behind him, the puppet doll turned around expressionlessly. She didn't know if it was Gu Xingyin's illusion, but she seemed to have seen a hint of grievance from the doll's cute and serious expression. Gu Xingyin coughed dryly and secretly wondered if it was inappropriate for her to laugh at this little guy. She was about to get off the bed and pick him up when she saw the doll actually flew up. Technically speaking, it should be floating. Gu Xingyin felt like she was watching a fantasy film. She watched as the little meatball floated up from the ground without the help of any tools and slowly floated in the direction of Gu Xingyin, then, with a thud sound, it landed on the soft blanket on the bed. Gu Xingyin, the puppet doll, seemed to be hit by the impact. His short limbs struggled in the soft blanket for a long time before he finally pulled himself out and sat in front of Gu with a serious expression. SSSSSS she's SSSS with space SSS the two people SSS again. Gu Xingyin, ha 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 ha, she hugged her stomach and laughed until she was out of breath on the bed. Where's the een object, tsts where's the perverse? Gu Xingyin expressed that he only saw stupidity. The puppet doll tilted its head and looked at its master with an exaggerated expression. He didn't know that it was a smile, but the bloodline contract allowed him to feel that the person in front of him was very happy. It was a very comfortable feeling. Although it looked strange, it was fine as long as she was comfortable. He thought to himself with a serious expression, allowing his master to laugh on his own. Chapter 1695. When Gu Xingyin was finally done laughing, she straightened her body and looked at the little figure in front of her. I have to give you a name. She frowned as if she was thinking about something. A name? The puppet doll was confused. He knew what it was. It was probably something like a code name. He felt that he should have a name. What should he be called? He was called, I'll call you doll. Anyway, I won't make any other dolls, Gu Xingyin said to herself. She looked at the little figure in front of her. You should be able to understand what I'm saying, right? From now on, your name will be Doll. The puppet doll stared at Gu Xingyin with his big green eyes and nodded. Then Gu Xingyin pointed at herself. I'm your master. My name is Diane. She just said it casually. She didn't intend for the little doll to remember it. But the next moment, the little doll's rosy mouth actually stuttered these two words. Diane, Gu Xingyin was surprised. How could his spiritual intelligence be so high? Even if she went through Diane's memories, she rarely saw a puppet that could do what Doll did. Could it be that the so-called power of the blood race in her body really made this puppet so powerful that it even surpassed all her previous works? Gu Xingyin didn't understand. This was probably the most likely possibility. She thought for a moment and was about to get up. She had already made up her mind. After packing up here, she would set off for the capital. She would try to secretly cure the eldest son of the Qin family. This morning, the system told her that the black magic spell cast by the black magic master on the eldest son of the Qin family had been broken. This was out of the original plot. According to the original plot, today should be the day that the eldest son of the Qin family died. The black magic spell cast by the black magic master was not broken. Old Master Chen had invited several masters, but they all said that they couldn't do anything. Could it be that some hidden powerful figure had made a move? Although the eldest son of the Chen family didn't die, he didn't wake up. The system didn't know the reason. Gu Xingyin planned to go and see for herself. But this little kid in front of him, Gu Xingyin helplessly looked at him. I'm going to wash my face. You lie on my shoulder. Be careful not to get wet. The doll pretended not to hear her and continued to hold on tightly to Gu Xingyin's collar as if she was afraid that she would take her down. Seeing him like this, Gu Xingyin couldn't do anything. Until she realized that no matter if she bent down or walked, the other party was still sitting steadily on Mount Tai without any signs of falling, she let him be. Gu Xingyin had an inexplicable feeling that she was raising a son. Walking out of the door, Gu Xingyin released the white tiger and prepared to let it hunt for prey as today's rations. As soon as the white tiger was released, it howled and rubbed against Gu Xingyin's body. In an instant, Gu Xingyin felt a little cold. The white tiger also sensed something. It took a step away from Gu Xingyin's side and roared towards Gu Xingyin's left side. She felt something and looked towards her shoulder. She saw a doll that she had never seen before. The little doll still looked the same, but at this moment, there was a faint glow in his green eyes. There was also a trace of black evil aura coming out of his body. He stared coldly at the white tiger, and there was a cold murderous intent in his eyes. This appearance was somewhat similar to the evil creatures in the legends. Doll, I'm jealous. 6th update. 4th update today. Please, vote, vote. Today's votes were half of yesterday's. Gao Lengji was scared. Monday was too scary. Chapter 1696. White Tiger sensed the danger too. It lowered its body and scratched the ground uneasily with its front paws. It let out a warning growl, which was a sign of encountering a strong enemy. Gu Xingyin suddenly had an idea. She was about to stop it when a black shadow flashed in front of her. A black mist escaped from Doll's body and formed a ferocious ghost face in the air. It pounced on White Tiger at an extremely fast speed. It did not seem like it was going to show any mercy. White Tiger flashed its sharp claws. Gu Xingyin saw White Tiger's huge body fighting with the black shadow. Finally, White Tiger roared and swallowed the black shadow. However, in Gu Xingyin's eyes, the White Tiger's specially refined fur, which even bullets could not penetrate, had a few holes gnawed out of it by the ghost face. The system exclaimed, "Host, your doll is so fierce." Gu Xingyin was speechless. What was with the unpleasant feeling of having her lines stolen? Seeing that the two of them were still at daggers drawn and ready to attack again, Gu Xingyin couldn't be bothered to say anything. He subconsciously gave 2 orders in his mind. Stop. The White Tiger obediently stopped what it was doing and raised its head to roar at Gu Xingyin. However, Doll resisted. Gu Xingyin could feel that he was unwilling to let go. She gave another order. Doll stared at Gu Xingyin with his green eyes and finally lowered his head unwillingly. The black mist around him returned to his body, as if nothing had happened. He felt Gu Xingyin's emotions from the bottom of his heart. His master was unhappy because he was disobedient. Dal raised his head again and carefully poked Gu Xingyin's earlobe with his sharp nails. When Gu Xingyin turned to look at him, his expression immediately said, "I know I'm wrong, I didn't do anything." It had to be said that having such a face was still very advantageous. At the very least, Gu Xingyin lost her temper instantly. Gu Xingyin sat on the ground while White Tiger lay beside her. The doll felt wronged as Gu Xingyin forcefully pulled it off her body and placed it on the other side. Gu Xingyin looked at the two of them seriously. She didn't open her mouth. Instead, she used her mind to communicate with them. The gist of it was that they shouldn't go against each other anymore. Everyone was the same, so they should get along well. White Tiger quickly made his intentions clear, the other party had malicious intentions towards him. Gu Xingyin looked at Dal, who hadn't said anything. Then, she felt Dal's intermittent thoughts transmitted to her. "You're not allowed to get close to me. Mine is mine." Gu Xingyin froze. She didn't understand what the doll was trying to say. It wasn't until Dal couldn't help but move and climb onto her shoulder that she realized that he was talking about her. Just as the system had said, Dal was extremely close to her and had developed a terrifying possessive desire. However, perhaps because of his cute appearance, Gu Xingyin didn't feel disgusted. Instead, she felt slightly helpless. Could it be that Dal really thought of her as his mother? It wasn't strange for children to have a certain degree of possessiveness towards their mothers. Chapter 1697. All in all, under Gu Xingyin's insistence, White Tiger and Dal were finally able to get along with each other. Of course, this was what Gu Xingyin saw. She did not notice that White Tiger had become less and less fond of getting close to her. Instead, White Tiger was acting cute with her. It was normal that Gu Xingyin did not notice. After all, she had just come into this body not long ago. Although she had inherited Dean's memories, she did not pay much attention to some of her daily habits. She did not know that on that night, after she fell asleep, Dal, who had been occupying the most intimate position beside her, silently floated out. Then, he found White Tiger, who had turned into a little white tiger model lying on the grass. When the two met, it was like a raging fire. Don't think too much. They fought very straightforwardly. The result of this fight was obvious. Dal won. The result of his victory was that White Tiger was not allowed to get close to Gu Xingyin and act cute in front of her. Master belonged to him and him alone. No one else was allowed to get close to her. White Tiger was very dissatisfied. As a creation, it was innate to be close to its master. However, when the black room behind Dal transformed into a bloody mouth, which meant that if it did not agree, it would directly devour it, White Tiger silently chose to agree. Inspector was different from other things. White Tiger and Dal were both inspectors that had gained consciousness. White Tiger and Dal could devour each other, and the devourer's ability would probably be higher. Therefore, White Tiger tearfully agreed to this humiliating contract for its own life. Dal flew back in a good mood. Then, it rubbed its face against Gu Xingyin's smooth face with a satisfied expression. It opened its eyes and silently looked at her. That White Tiger was an idiot. Dal actually would not devour it at all. This was because he could sense that Master liked that White Tiger. If he devoured it, Master would probably be unhappy again. Dolly was a little worried. She always felt that her master was easily upset over small things. When Master was unhappy, Doll would be unhappy too. He did not like that expression on Master's face. The bottom of his heart was bitter and very uncomfortable. At this moment, the puppet doll did not know that this emotion was called heartache. Over the next few days, Gu Xingyin ordered all the puppets in his residence to leave this place for the time being and go to other places far away. These puppets were not like White Tiger and Doll. They only listened to their master's orders mechanically. They moved forward until Gu Xingyin called for them to stop. Then, without Gu Xingyin's command, they would remain in a standing or walking position until their master gave the next command, or until something happened to their bodies and they could no longer move. Gu Xingyin looked around. After making sure that she didn't miss anything important, she walked out of the valley. She had to go to the imperial capital to take a look. The system said that the eldest son of the Qin family had been like that during this period of time. However, there was an expert guarding him now, so there was no need to worry about that black magic master hurting him a second time. He was temporarily safe. Gu Xingyin searched the wardrobe for a long time. Fortunately, she found a few normal clothes that Dean had never worn before. According to her memory, these were all sent by the enthusiastic customer from before. And the customer was very considerate. According to Dean's appearance, he chose punk style and heavy metal style clothes. In this way, after Gu Xingyin put it on, other people would probably think that she was just a fan of weird and unique styles and dressed up a little exaggeratedly. 8th update. 2 more chapters. See you later. Chapter 1698. Gu Xingyin looked at himself in the mirror. He was wearing a shiny, sequin trench coat and a pair of tight leather pants. His waist-length black hair was tied up in a high ponytail. Speaking of which, she did not even need to put on makeup. Her seductive and cold aura was fully displayed. However, Gu Xingyin still wanted to complain. With such a look, she would definitely attract attention wherever she went. If normal people saw her, they would either think of her as a celebrity or an artist. What if someone took a picture and Chen Qiqi saw it? After thinking for a while, Gu Xingyin took out a pair of black sunglasses and covered half of her face. Very good. Even if someone took a picture of her, if Chen Qiqi could recognize her, Gu Xingyin would be convinced. When she was changing her clothes, Doll and White Tiger were chased out by Gu Xingyin. Doll was already floating up and down in the air impatiently. He could completely control this skill now. The door finally opened from the inside. Doll subconsciously looked in the direction of the door. Then, plop. Very unhappily, he came into close contact with the ground again. However, this degree of fall did not pose any danger to him at all. Doll nimbly levitated from the ground and looked at the person in front of him in confusion. As the person was exposed under the sunlight, it was really too eye-catching. He could not help but stretch out his chubby hand and rub his eyes in a very human-like manner. Gu Xingyin. Was it that exaggerated? Doll was stunned to see a stranger coming out of his master's room. Then, he observed carefully. This person's body and aura were exactly the same as his master's. Very delicious, very sweet, the feeling of being connected by blood was also the same. So, the woman in front of him was his master. Gu Xingyin looked at the puppet doll in front of her with a very realistic expression of disdain. White Tiger not far from him also growled softly to express its dissatisfaction. Gu Xingyin, was it really that eye-catching? Actually, Gu Xingyin had misunderstood. Doll and White Tiger were both consciousnesses formed from yin energy. This determined their preferences and habits. As beings of extreme yin, they liked dampness, darkness, and negative emotions, such an environment. However, Gu Xingyin's shiny outfit made them feel uncomfortable. However, even though Dolly wasn't used to it, after confirming that Gu Xingyin was its master, it quickly floated to Gu Xingyin's shoulder and sat firmly. It also habitually extended its nails to poke Gu Xingyin's earlobe. This was his exclusive seat. Although there was something wrong with his master's taste, as an obedient child, he still had to love his master. Then, Gu Xingyin grabbed him with one hand. Gu Xingyin looked at the doll. He said seriously, for the rest of the time, you can't sit on my shoulders. Doll was puzzled. Gu Xingyin pointed at him and then at White Tiger. She did not say anything. Instead, she sent a message into their minds. It was to let them know that what they were doing was very strange in normal human society. If they were discovered, the consequences could be very serious. Of course, as the master, it would be very troublesome for her. Dal was very disapproving when he heard the first part. However, when he heard that it would bring trouble to his master, he hesitated for a moment and obediently stopped moving. Chapter 1699. In the end, Gu Xingyin carried a bag that was as cool as her windbreaker and rode the white tiger out of the valley. When they reached the outskirts of the forest, Gu Xingyin kept the shrunken white tiger in his bag. As for Dal, she put it in the pocket of her windbreaker. Originally, Gu Xingyin planned to put both of them in her pocket, but Dal got jealous again. He was determined not to let the white tiger enjoy the same treatment as him. What could Gu Xingyin do? People's hearts were biased, not to mention that the white tiger was not as cute as Dal. Therefore, it could only stay in the bag. Here, Gu Xingyin once again thanked the kind-hearted customer who had helped her once. Because Diying grew up in the forest, she did not even have an ID card or a household register. However, the female tycoon who had received her favor and successfully got pregnant and gave birth to a child, after knowing that she had nothing, almost waved her hand and took care of everything for others. Therefore, Gu Xingyin was able to successfully buy a plane ticket to the capital. Diying did not lack money. When Gu Xingyin checked the bank card that had never been used by Diying, she was shocked by the huge amount of money in it. Knowing that she was now an invisible tycoon, Gu Xingyin, of course, did not hesitate to choose the first-class cabin. Then, thanks to her outfit, Gu Xingyin was scrutinized by a lot of people on the plane. There were even 2 people who softly asked for her autograph. Of course, Gu Xingyin directly refused. In the end, in order to avoid embarrassment, she directly put on an eye mask and closed her eyes to rest. Dal was surprisingly quiet throughout the journey. Gu Xingyin shut off her perception of Dal's emotions, so if she did not deliberately feel it, she would not be able to detect his emotions. Dal felt as if there was something burning in his soul. The plane slowly flew forward, getting closer and closer to the capital. And the closer they were to the capital, the stronger the inexplicable feeling became. In the dimly lit pocket, Dal opened his green eyes. He could clearly feel that something was calling out to him from that direction. What is it? He couldn't remember, but it was very important. It was very important. On the other hand, the white tiger in the bag seemed to have sensed the unusual wave of energy coming from the doll. He shrank back a little in fear. Speaking of which, the aura of this fellow was truly terrifying. The white tiger had no doubt that he was no match for the other party. Gu Xingyin fell into a deep sleep. Dal, on the other hand, kept his eyes open. He was very excited and looked forward to the unknown. Gu Xingyin was awakened by Dal. It was not the kind of voice that woke her up, but the doll's stubborn consciousness. It even broke through Gu Xingyin's divine sense defense and appeared in her mind. And that thought was very simple. Gu Xingyin heard it clearly. He craved power. And in the current situation, the most direct and convenient way was Gu Xingyin's blood. Gu Xingyin felt that it was very strange. In fact, except at the beginning, when Dal instinctively sucked her blood when he was just created, although he seemed to desire it, he had never asked for it. But this time, the soul-deep desire surprised Gu Xingyin. Chapter 1700. Gu Xingyin only hesitated for a moment before sending a thought to the doll. She agreed. The doll's reaction was very fast. Almost as soon as the owner agreed and put his hand into his pocket, his sharp teeth pierced into the owner's flesh. This was the feeling. It was incomparably beautiful and mesmerizing. As the blood flowed, the doll could feel a strong force entering his body. He closed his eyes in satisfaction. Gu Xingyin, on the other hand, let Dal go when he sensed that the slight blood loss would not affect him. Slowly, the burning desire in the doll's heart calmed down. What followed was an increasingly strong force in his body and some scattered things that appeared in his mind. Capital, sister. Chen what? His delicate brows were tightly furrowed, as if he was trying hard to recall the things that he should have remembered but was forced to forget. His dark green eyes suddenly opened. He remembered. Chen Biyue. Gu Xingyin felt that the little guy in her pocket did not seem to need her blood anymore. He hugged his finger and licked it gently. In the end, he did not let go. Instead, he used his finger as a tool to grind his teeth and nibbled on it gently. This was not the first time this had happened. Gu Xingyin completely treated it as the doll's behavior. She only smiled and did not say anything. What she didn't know was that her puppet doll had already recalled some things. He was not a self-consciousness formed by the Yin Spectre. He was a normal person. His name was Chen Biyue. He had inexplicably fallen into a strange gray place. When he woke up in a daze, he had become a puppet doll that had no consciousness and called someone his master. Chen Biyue's heart was filled with anger. Was it this person? Did she cause him to become like this? But subconsciously, he was certain that it was not this person. This person would not harm him. Then, what had happened to him at that time? He pondered with a gloomy expression. Suddenly, he felt something in his mouth. When he realized what it was, his expression changed. He was nibbling on someone else's finger. He quickly spat out Gu Xingyin's finger and wiped his mouth with his sleeve. Then, he heard a gentle voice in his mind. Are you full? Before his mind could react, the body spontaneously stuck to the hand beside him and even rubbed against it, indicating that he was full. Chen Biyue was speechless. He could not control the urge to get close to her. The corners of Gu Xingyin's lips curled up. Knowing that he was full, he reached out and patted his head comfortingly before pulling his hand away. She raised her finger and looked at it. Well, the small cut was almost invisible. At this moment, Gu Xingyin did not know that her puppet doll was sitting in her pocket with a serious expression on his face. The transportation in modern society was very advanced. Soon, the plane landed in the capital's airport. Gu Xingyin walked out of the airport with many passengers. The feeling in his heart was getting stronger. He wanted to return to the Chen family and see what kind of situation he was in. His body was calling for him. He could feel it. Chapter 1701. Gu Xingyin asked the system to quickly calculate a route to a 5-star hotel not far from the Chen family's residence. She booked a presidential suite for a month and prepared to observe the Chen family's recent situation. Chen Biyue was quite happy when Gu Xingyin chose the location. Because this place was also very close to his destination. He was still thinking about what reason he should find to go to the Chen family's residence. After all, he had signed a contract with this mysterious puppet master. If he did anything unusual, she would definitely notice it immediately. Before he could confirm whether Gu Xingyin was a friend or foe, he didn't dare to be careless. Then, at night, Gu Xingyin gave an order that made Chen Biyue dumbfounded. Go to the Chen family and check on the Chen family's eldest son's current situation. Report his current situation and the Chen family's current situation to me. Chen Biyue was bewildered. He couldn't help but think, could this matter really have something to do with her? Could it be that the person in front of him did this to him? If this was really the case, if he could wake up one day, this culprit who caused him to become like this, Chen Biyue felt a little confused. According to his usual character, if he had a chance to fight back against someone who framed him and almost killed him, he definitely wouldn't let them off. Moreover, he would definitely cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, leaving no trace of trouble for himself. But if the target was the woman in front of him, Chen Biyue's heart actually wavered a little. He couldn't bear for her to die, whether it was because of the power of the contract or because of his feelings in the depths of his mind. He didn't want this woman to disappear. Then, he would break her legs, break her wings, and imprison her in a place where only he could see her. Chen Biue lowered his eyes and thought so. If Gu Xingyin could listen to her puppet doll's thoughts, she would definitely be able to see a series of very bloody and violent scenes that were not suitable for children. She looked at the motionless puppet doll and felt strange. Doll. Gu Xingyin had a strange feeling. She felt that doll was much more complicated than her other pet, the simple-minded white tiger. Chen Biue's eyes trembled when he heard the word baby. This kind of strange name, what was it trying to do? He quickly regained his composure and nodded, indicating that he understood. Then, a black mist spread out from his body and enveloped his entire body. In Gu Xingyin's eyes, the doll that was in front of him just a moment ago had suddenly disappeared. All that was left in the air was a small cluster of black mist that was invisible to the naked eye. Even Gu Xingyin had to rely on the connection between her and the puppet bloodline to see his trace. The black fog circled around Gu Xingyin twice before drifting out of the window. At this moment, Chen Biue wanted to go home and take a look. He urgently wanted to know what his current situation was. Auntie Fang had been a nanny in the Chen family for more than 10 years. She was considered an elder in the Chen family. She had also watched eldest young master grow up. Now that eldest young master had been unconscious for such a long time and was lying on the bed, the other servants felt that eldest young master was hopeless in this lifetime. They also slacked off taking care of him. Chapter 1702. At this time, only Auntie Fang would insist on cleaning the unconscious Chen Biue every day. She would open the doors and windows regularly to ventilate and tidy the room. On this day, when Auntie Fang opened the window in the morning, a gust of cold wind suddenly brushed past her body. Auntie Fang couldn't help but shiver. She looked up at the sky strangely. It was supposed to be a sunny day, wasn't it? Worried that the cold wind would catch the young master cold, Auntie Fang stood by the window for a while. After confirming that the cold wind was just a coincidence, she left the window. Walking to the bedside, Auntie Fang looked at the handsome man on the bed who looked a little pale because of being bedridden for a long time and sighed. "Young master, you have to hurry and come over. Even an old woman like me can feel that the atmosphere in the house has been very abnormal recently. If you don't come over soon, I'm afraid that the house won't be peaceful in the future." Auntie Fang wasn't worried about herself. At worst, she could just leave when the time came. But if the young master didn't wake up soon, what would happen in the future? What Auntie Fang couldn't see was that at the place where she had just been, hidden behind the curtains, wisps of black fog were swirling around, making the air in that place seem extra gloomy and cold. The puppet doll listened to Auntie Fang's long-winded words for a long time before turning to leave, closing the door behind him. When Auntie Fang went out, she only left the door ajar. When she walked past the corner of the corridor, the door seemed to be pushed by something at the empty entrance. With a click, the door lock automatically buckled. At the same time, the wisps of black fog by the curtains slowly condensed in front of the bed. Slowly, they formed the shape of a human baby in midair. It was the puppet doll, or rather, Chen Biue now. Chen Biue slowly looked at his body on the bed. At such a close distance, he felt very strange. He could feel the current state of his body, as if his consciousness was still in his body, but he couldn't control this body. The person on the bed was clearly not in a good state. Even if there was someone taking care of him carefully, the long period of bedridden had made this body weak and weak. The puppet doll Chen Biue carefully approached the window. Then, he reached out a hand and gently touched his body. He could feel his body calling out to him. The moment his hand touched Chen Biue's body on the bed, there seemed to be a strong pulling force from that body. Puppet doll Chen Biue was overjoyed. He did not resist and allowed this phenomenon to be discovered without hesitation. Perhaps this was the opportunity for him to return to his own body. However, reality proved that the matter of the soul returning to its original place was not that simple. Chen Biyue could clearly feel his soul enter his body, but it was expelled in a moment. It was as if his body had started to reject the entry of his soul. He didn't believe in such a thing. He persevered and tried again, but it still didn't work. After many attempts, Chen Biyue finally accepted his fate. He was sure that if he couldn't find someone to help him, he wouldn't be able to return to his body on his own. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Gu Xingyin's figure subconsciously appeared. Chapter 1703. There was a saying that when a person was in trouble, the first person he would turn to for help would be the person he trusted the most at the bottom of his heart. Chen Biyue didn't expect that when he was in trouble, the person he would turn to wasn't his biological father or his good friend. Instead, it was the woman he had only known for a short 10 days. It was a strange feeling. However, Chen Biyue shook his head in the end. He wanted to trust her, but who knew if he could trust her? Since he couldn't return to his body, there was no point in staying here any longer. Chen Biyue looked around and didn't find anything wrong with the room he was in. Then, he turned into a dark room and left. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he wandered around the Chen family. Speaking of which, he had been in a daze for so long. He didn't know how the Chen family was doing. As soon as he came out, Chen Biyue saw his father. Old Master Chen was wearing a dark red tang suit and holding a wooden walking stick. He was in high spirits and was politely chatting with an old man with a calm expression. Hearing how his father addressed him, Chen Biyue knew in his heart that this was probably another person from the metaphysics school. Although this person from the Xian sect looked calm, he didn't hide the arrogance in his eyes. Chen Biyue only glanced at him and lost interest. In his opinion, this person from the Xian sect looked like an expert. Even he could kill 5 of them by himself. He was most likely another person who pretended to be mysterious and fished for fame. From what he heard, his father must have thought a lot before inviting this master over, hoping that he could wake up his eldest son. Chen Biyue didn't have any hope in this matter. He just felt sorry for his father. Obviously, old Master Chen still hadn't given up on his son. He watched as the master entered his room calmly. After seeing him, he was hesitant. Then, he was shocked. In the end, his expression was very ugly. This. Not only Chen Biyue, but old Master Chen could also see that there was nothing he could do. In the end, the master only said a lot of things that normal people wouldn't understand. Then, he took the Chen family's generous reward and left. Chen Biyue watched quietly as his father locked himself in the study. He didn't follow. Perhaps someone like his father didn't want anyone to see him in such a weak state. Chen Biyue continued to walk around the house. When he passed by one of the rooms, he suddenly heard something that made his eyes turn cold. This was the room of his biological sister, Chen Qiqi. At this time, Chen Qiqi was talking to someone. The black fog ignored the tightly shut door and went straight in. Chen Qiqi was sitting on the bed in the room, holding her phone in one hand and tugging at the bedsheets in boredom with the other. Yes, the old man sent someone over again today, but it seems to be useless. Her tone was very cheerful when she said this. He didn't know what the other side said, but Chen Biyue could roughly guess that they were proud of themselves. Because he immediately heard Chen Qiqi say, "Yes, yes, yes, my dear, you're really amazing. Well, not only are you good at black magic, in bed, you're even better." Chen Biyue listened expressionlessly. His heart was strangely calm when he found out that his own sister was the one who tried to kill him. He even had a feeling that this was indeed the case. Chapter 1704. Chen Biyue stared coldly at Chen Qiqi, who had her back to him. He didn't hesitate at all. With a thought, a cloud of black fog shrouded Chinchichi. What was the point of keeping a sister who wanted to kill him for her own selfish desires? Chinchichi felt a chill all over her body. She felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave in an instant, and couldn't help but scream. The person on the other side of the phone sensed that something was wrong and hurriedly asked her what was wrong. Since Chinchichi met this taming master, she had become a firm believer in metaphysics and fortune-telling. She didn't dare to hide anything from him and hurriedly told him about her current situation. The taming master was conceited, and he was very infatuated with Chinchichi's debauchery in bed. When he heard Chinchichi's request, he naturally asked her to go to the living room, a place with stronger yang energy, and he would immediately rush over. This was exactly what Chenbiyue wanted. Chenbiyue didn't leave. Chinchichi listened to the taming master and sat in the living room. He also hid in a corner in the shape of a cloud of black fog. Now the yin energy had completely entered Chinchichi's body. She had put on a coat, but she still felt very cold. The taming master quickly entered the room. The servants at home didn't let him in at first. Chinchichi said angrily, "This is my friend. Do you know how to do things? If not, get out of the Chin family." She looked at the taming master expectantly. "Dear, please take a look at me. What's wrong with me?" She couldn't help shivering as she spoke. The taming master reached out and touched Chinchichi's hand. It was May, but Chinchichi's hand was as cold as ice. He winked at Chinchichi. She understood and stood up. The two of them went upstairs to Chinchichi's room. Seeing this scene, the servants at home just sighed and shook their heads, as if they didn't like Mrs. behavior. Chenbiyue followed them coldly. He put the yin energy on Chinchichi's body just now to draw out the person behind the scenes. Now he finally saw the real face of the person behind the scenes. The other party was a man who looked to be in his 30s. Previously, he was wearing a baseball cap when he came in. Now that he had taken off his cap, one could clearly see the dense runes engraved on his bald head. Chenbiyue instantly thought of the runes on his puppet. The two were obviously not on the same page. However, Chenbiyue felt an evil and powerful force from this man. This should be the black magic that this man practiced. When the taming master was about to examine Chinchichi, he suddenly frowned and glanced in the direction where Chenbiyue was hiding. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt as if he was being watched by some ferocious beast. But when he sensed it carefully, he found that the feeling was gone. Chenbiyue stood there quietly, allowing him to size him up. Not to mention the fact that he didn't have a physical body at the moment, it wasn't easy for him to be discovered. Even if a tame headmaster sensed it, he would only be able to sense a ball of yin energy. It was too shocking for yin specters to gain self-awareness. Even a yin lady like Yin only had one white tiger by her side. As for the puppet doll, it was an exception. Chenbiyue felt his hands itching. If they weren't in the Chen family, he didn't want to disturb his father. He wanted to kill this man and woman at any time. Chapter 1705. Gu Xingyin looked at the puppet doll in surprise. How long had it been since it was created? It could actually speak human language. She was so happy that she quickly shouted, "Doll, come here." Chenbiyue opened his green eyes and looked at the naked body and the warm water in the pool. He was thinking. Should he go down? Or should he go down? However, just as he was thinking, Gu Xingyin finally remembered her current state. She couldn't bear her body in front of a self-aware doll, even if it was just a puppet. So she directly said, "Turn around, doll." When she said this, she had a commanding tone, like an adult talking to a naughty child. Then, under the effect of the contract, the puppet doll turned around without any resistance. Puppet Chenbiyue doll. When his body was finally under his control, he found that the person opposite him had put on a bathrobe and walked out of the pool. Chen Biue looked at the person wrapped up tightly. In his lowered green eyes, there was a trace of regret. Gu Xingyin didn't notice. Of course, this was mostly because she didn't think that her little puppet doll could think of such complicated things. After resting and relaxing, it was time to get down to business. She sat on the bed and asked the puppet doll, "What did you see today?" If the puppet doll didn't have its own consciousness, Gu Xingyin would directly enter its consciousness and extract its memories. But now, Gu Xingyin thought that since the puppet doll had its own consciousness, it had become an independent individual. In this way, he could already be considered a special life form. Since it was a life form, it should be treated with enough respect. So, Gu Xingyin asked Chen Biue. Her action made Chen Biue sigh in relief. If she directly extracted the memories, the fact that he was Chen Biue's soul couldn't be hidden from Gu Xingyin. Although he didn't think what would happen if this was known by the person in front of him, after the awkward meeting in the pool just now, he still felt a little strange. And most importantly, if she directly extracted the memories, his shameful thoughts, Chen Biue put aside those distracting thoughts and slowly began to transmit everything he saw in the Chen family directly to Gu Xingyin's mind. Because it was his own choice, he omitted some things about his identity that Gu Xingyin didn't need to know. Gu Xingyin seemed to use the puppet doll's eyes to experience everything that Chen Biue saw in the whole night. In fact, Gu Xingyin herself knew most of the things happened. Based on the puppet doll's probing, she could roughly tell that this taming master was no match for her at all. In this case, she thought silently and couldn't help but mutter, "What kind of excuse should I find to try and wake up the eldest young master of the Chen family?" She didn't notice that the puppet doll was shocked when it heard this. She actually wanted to wake it up. There was nothing more surprising than this. Gu Xingyin felt that her arm was poked. She looked down in confusion and found that a memory in her mind was repeated. There were only 7 chapters today. I really couldn't write anymore. There was a notice of leave at the top of the book review and comment section. I'll make up for it tomorrow. I'm really sorry. Chapter 1706. Gu Xingyin didn't understand. She looked through her memories. It was the scene of old man Chen politely accompanying a person from the Xian sect. At first, Gu Xingyin didn't understand what the doll meant. But after thinking for a bit, her eyes lit up. She looked at the doll. "You're saying that you want me to recommend myself? Take the initiative to go to them?" The doll nodded heavily. Chen Biue knew that his father wouldn't be willing to give up any chance at this time. In old man Chen's eyes, the only suitable successor was his eldest son, Chen Biue. This wasn't because he favored sons over daughters. He just understood his own children. His eldest son, Chen Biue, was first class in both ability and temperament. If he took over the Chen family, he might be able to push the Chen family to another peak. As for his daughter, Chen Qiqi, she was ruthless but lacked ability. Her vision was also a bit lacking. When Chen Biue fell, the most anxious person was old man Chen. He knew very well that the Chen family had countless branches. Some of the more ambitious ones were eyeing the current Chen family. He could still suppress them now. If he was 100 years old, his eldest son would be fine, but his youngest daughter Qiqi. He wouldn't be able to suppress those greedy people. So these days, old man Chen had been sparing no effort to find an expert, hoping to wake his eldest son up. Gu Xingyin lowered her head and thought for a bit. She felt that this was feasible. She smiled at the doll and praised it. "Doll, you're really amazing." The puppet doll just stared at Gu Xingyin with its green eyes. It flew over to her and perched on her shoulder, playing with her hair. Gu Xingyin didn't rest well the entire night. She was a bit tired and fell asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. Chen puppet doll Baiyu sat on her pillow and looked down at the person who was sleeping with her eyes closed. She was still the same. Her face was pale and her lips were purplish. She looked like a decadent but beautiful poppy, luring humans to be attracted to her like moths to a flame. Chen Biyue was the one who was seduced. He remained motionless, staring at the person on the bed over and over again as if he was possessed. It was as if he would never get tired of looking at her. After an unknown amount of time, Chen Biyue suddenly bent down. His body was too small. Even though he was sitting on the pillow, there was still some distance between him and Gu Xingyin's face. He crawled forward with his hands and feet. After crawling a few times, he finally came into contact with the person sleeping on the pillow. Chen Biyue gently grabbed Gu Xingyin's hair with his small hand. Finally, he kissed Gu Xingyin's face. It felt so good. He grinned contentedly. The system that didn't need to rest as well, his hands were itching, but he had to endure it. Fortunately, after kissing Gu Xingyin, Chen Biyue didn't do anything else. His small body curled up in the side of Gu Xingyin's neck. He closed his eyes and pretended to fall asleep with her. When Gu Xingyin woke up, it was already afternoon. She stretched lazily and tidied herself up. Then, she walked straight to the Chen family's house. Of course, the white tiger and the puppet doll were still in her pocket. When old Master Chen heard that someone wanted to see him, he felt a bit strange. The housekeeper said, "That guest looks a bit strange." She said that she came for young master. Chapter 1707. Old Master Chen's expression changed when he heard this. He personally walked to the door with his walking stick. When Gu Xingyin was alone in the hotel with the puppet, she would subconsciously reveal a trace of her nature. However, in front of outsiders, she would definitely maintain her noble and cold persona to the point that not even a drop of water could leak out. Old Master Chen looked at Gu Xingyin. He had some doubts in his heart. After all, Gu Xingyin did not look like a good person. But who was he? No matter what he thought in his heart, he would not show it on his face. Moreover, old Master Chen had more contact with people like Gu Xingyin. He knew that some masters liked to pursue some unique styles, so he quickly recovered. He said politely, "I heard that master is here for my son. May I know how to address you?" Gu Xingyin's expression was indifferent, like the ice and snow on the cold mountain that never melted all year round. Her voice was equally cold. "Dean, I can save your son." Chen Biyue sat in Gu Xingyin's pocket. Although his eyes were covered by the pocket, he could clearly see Gu Xingyin's appearance at this time. He had never seen his master like this. It was hard to imagine that such an arrogant, indifferent, and insufferably arrogant person was the same person who would laugh and stretch in private. Old Master Chen politely welcomed them into the house and ordered someone to serve tea. He asked straightforwardly, "Master Dean, which faction do you belong to? Do you have any requests that I can make?" Asking about Gu Xingyin's faction was just a casual question. The last sentence was the main point. Old Master Chen, who had lived for so many years, was not a young and impetuous boy. Naturally, he would not believe that a pie would fall from the sky. In his opinion, the person in front of him must have a request for the Chen family since she took the initiative to come to him and said that she could save his son. He never believed that there would be a great philanthropist in the world who would give without asking for anything in return. However, it was obvious that Gu Xingyin was going to make him miscalculate. She still had that cold expression on her face, and the words that came out of her mouth carried a hint of mockery. "There's nothing in your house that I'm interested in. I'm willing to cure your son today because I'm happy." Old Master Chen, he didn't deny that he was a little unhappy when he heard the other party's first sentence. After all, the other party's words were simply criticizing the Chen clan as if they were worthless. However, when he heard Gu Xingyin's second sentence, he began to have doubts again. What kind of reason was that? He carefully raised his head and looked at Gu Xingyin, but he could not find any clues from her expression. He knew that some people in the celestial sect of wonders were eccentric. They spoke and did things according to their own preferences. Could it be that this person was also one of those people? Gu Xingyin felt Old Master Chen's gaze and her voice suddenly became colder. Although her voice was cold, the bystanders could still tell that it was just her way of speaking. However, Old Master Chen could hear that the other party was a little unhappy from the tone of her voice. If it weren't for the fact that I don't like the person who did it behind my back, what do you think the Chen family has that's worth me doing it personally? Gu Xingyin flicked her sleeves coldly and said, since you're worried about my purpose, why should I come here to annoy you? Chapter 1708. As she spoke, she actually lifted her foot and walked out without hesitation. Old Master Chen was shocked. He couldn't care about anything else and hurriedly walked up. He stopped Gu Xingyin and even bent down to apologize for his previous behavior. Master, it's my fault for neglecting you. Please don't be angry. Gu Xingyin looked at him with a faint smile and said, I just feel hungry. You need to know something. For example, if I really want to do something to young Master Chen and the Chen family, I don't need to come here personally. Old Master Chen knew that he was still angry because of his suspicion. He hurriedly apologized. In fact, Gu Xingyin just wanted to protect the character setting of Diyin. She didn't like to see an old man in his 50s grovel in front of her. So she softened her expression. No need to apologize. Anyway, after this incident, we won't have any more interactions. Old Master Chen was delighted when he heard this. Judging from this master's words, she should agree to save his son. Chen Biyue had been quietly staying in the pocket. He watched as his father bowed and apologized to a stranger for his sake. After all, that was his father. He blamed Gu Xingyin. Why was she so cold? But on second thought, Diyin and Chen Biyue were just two strangers who didn't know each other. Diyin was willing to save him. No matter what the purpose was, it was a great favor for the Chen family. Moreover, it was obvious that she was like this outside. People with abilities always had privileges. When their abilities were questioned, it was normal for them to be unhappy. Chen Biyue was still letting his imagination run wild. Gu Xingyin had already walked back into the living room of the Chen family. Gu Xingyin was not in the mood to make small talk. Take me to see her. Old Master Chen personally led Gu Xingyin upstairs. At this time, the door below was opened. Chen Qiqi, who was wearing a black professional dress, came back from outside with a bag. She immediately spotted Gu Xingyin, who was walking beside her father. Chen Qiqi knew Diyin. At that time, she personally asked Diyin to help, but Diyin rejected her. Now, why did she come to the Chen family? Could it be that he wanted to expose what he had done? Chen Qiqi shouted, Dad. Grandpa Chen turned around and smiled apologetically at Gu Xingyin. That's my second daughter. Gu Xingyin did not say anything. Chen Qiqi rushed upstairs and looked at Gu Xingyin warily. However, she asked Old Master Chen, Dad, who is this person? Grandpa Chen said, This is a master. He's here for your brother's health. Chen Qiqi's heart trembled. She had approached Diyin because she had heard of his reputation. Father actually managed to get Diyin to help. Could this person really be able to cure his brother? Moreover, she knew what she wanted to do at that time. Although Chen Qiqi did not say that he was targeting her brother, Chen Qiqi felt that he could definitely guess it based on Chen Biyue's current situation. She could not let her father believe Diyin. Chen Qiqi glanced at Gu Xingyin and said to Grandpa Chen, Father, do you know the background of these so-called masters? This person looks. Grandpa Chen shouted in a low voice, Shut up. Chapter 1709. Old Master Chen looked at Gu Xingyin nervously. He had seen the master's temper before. What if his daughter angered the master again with her words? But this time, Gu Xingyin made him confused again. Because she was not angry at all. Not only was she not angry, but she looked at Qin Chichi with a meaningful smile on her face. This was the first time old Master Chen saw Master Di Yin smile since he saw her today. But Qin Chichi did not feel that the smile was friendly at all. Instead, she felt as if an endless chill was being released from that smile, corroding every inch of her body. She couldn't help but shudder. Then, Gu Xingyin said, "Are you in a hurry to stop me because you feel guilty?" As soon as she said this, the faces of the other two people present darkened. Qin Chichi flew into a rage out of humiliation, while old Master Chen's expression was unreadable. Qin Chichi was afraid that her father would doubt her because of Gu Xingyin's words, so she hurriedly explained, "Don't talk nonsense. Why would I feel guilty? I can't wait for my brother to get better as soon as possible. But you don't look like a decent master at all. In my opinion, you're clearly Qin Chichi." Old Master Chen shouted sternly to stop her. Qin Chichi quieted down. Old Master Chen said in a deep voice, "I'm going to ask the master to take a look at your brother. Go back to your room now. Don't make trouble without my permission." Qin Chichi was a little unwilling. She said that she wanted to watch from the side. But before Gu Xingyin could say anything, old Master Chen refused. Qin Chichi could only go back unwillingly. Gu Xingyin followed old Master Chen into Chen Biyue's room. The room was very clean and there was no unpleasant atmosphere. Obviously, this young master was well taken care of at home. Gu Xingyin walked to Chen Biyue's bed. Looking at his closed eyes, she suddenly bent down. Old Master Chen was shocked, and so was the puppet doll in Gu Xingyin's pocket. Because when Gu Xingyin leaned over, it really looked like she was going to kiss Chen Biyue who was lying on the bed. But Gu Xingyin did not. When she was still some distance away from Chen Biyue's face, she stopped. There was no smell at all. "It's not him." Gu Xingyin straightened up and began to observe the person in front of him. Old Master Chen heaved a sigh of relief. He thought to himself that he must have been overthinking things just now. This master was clearly a cold and emotionless person. How could he have, discordant thoughts towards his own son? The puppet doll in Gu Xingyin's pocket was different. The moment he saw Gu Xingyin bending over, he almost jumped up in shock. Could it be that he and Diane knew each other, and there was some story that he had to tell before? Otherwise, it was hard to understand why she came all the way to the capital to save him. The puppet doll thought happily. But he really did not have any memory of knowing Diane. Moreover, he had never been to that valley, so it was impossible for him to know Diane. Seeing Gu Xingyin straightened up again without any expression and did not kiss him, the puppet doll felt a sense of regret. Then, he was once again shocked by Gu Xingyin's words. Gu Xingyin said faintly, "Take off his clothes." Chapter 17:10. There were only two people in the room. Gu Xingyin couldn't take off a man's clothes by herself. Of course, her words were directed at Old Master Chen. Old Master Chen didn't react for a moment. He looked at Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin repeated her words. "If it's not convenient for you, you can find an outsider to take it off." Old Master Chen was sure that Gu Xingyin was really going to take off his son's clothes. He thought about it and didn't let anyone in. Instead, he walked forward himself. Because he had been in bed for a long time, Chen Biyue was wearing a set of convenient pajamas. It was easier to take them off. Old Master Chen took off his outerwear and looked hesitantly at Gu Xingyin, who was looking down. Gu Xingyin's voice didn't fluctuate at all. It was as if the person in front of her was just a stone or a blade of grass, not a naked man. "Take it all off." Old Master Chen was silent for a moment. Then, he took off his eldest son's clothes. The puppet doll that had been lying in Gu Xingyin's pocket. An inexplicable sense of shame surged in his mind. This thought came too suddenly and was too strong. Chen Biue couldn't control himself and was caught by Gu Xingyin. Chen Biue's entire body froze. He was afraid that Gu Xingyin would be suspicious. However, Gu Xingyin didn't suspect him. She thought that the puppet doll had never seen a naked human body before, so it was embarrassed. She comforted the puppet doll. "Doll, don't be afraid. It's just a normal human body. Doll is like this too." Hearing Gu Xingyin's words, Chen Biue knew that she didn't suspect him. He sighed in relief. Then, the doll, who finally had time to think about other things, felt frustrated again. She didn't have any reaction to his body at all. Not to mention that she liked to be praised, she didn't even feel shy. Chen Biue felt like he had failed. Just as he was about to reflect on his lack of charm, he saw Gu Xingyin walk up to him, and then, Chen Biue's eyes widened. On the other side, old Master Chen, who had been paying close attention to this side, also gasped. Gu Xingyin's hand started from the forehead of the person on the bed. Her index finger and middle finger slowly slid down. If it wasn't for Gu Xingyin's cold expression, as if she was just evaluating a lifeless object, her attitude would definitely be related to lust. Chen Biue felt like he was about to burn up. Although he wasn't in his own body right now, he felt as if his soul was being ignited by Gu Xingyin's actions. He could not help but look at Gu Xingyin. This glance made his burning mind sober up quite a bit. Because Gu Xingyin's expression didn't show any emotion. It was as if the adult male body in front of her was no different from a weed by the roadside. At this moment, her hand had already reached Chen Biue's heart. Then, her fingers paused. Gu Xingyin raised her eyebrows. Old Master Chen watched in horror. This master's fingers suddenly bent, and the purple-black long nails sank into his son's heart just like that. He didn't even have time to speak before he ran over. With such a sharp nail piercing into his chest, could his son still be saved? Chapter 1711. Gu Xingyin naturally saw Old Master Chen's actions. "Don't come over." Old Master Chen didn't listen at all. That was his son. Gu Xingyin shouted in a low voice, "White tiger." A tiger's roar suddenly sounded in the room. A huge white tiger suddenly appeared in front of Old Master Chen. It was almost as tall as a normal person's chest. The tiger stood firmly in front of Old Master Chen. It arched its body and directly carried him to stand far away by the door. Old Master Chen opened his mouth and wanted to scold. He hated himself for not recognizing people clearly and causing harm to his son. His gaze fell on Gu Xingyin, but he suddenly paused. He didn't see any blood coming out from his son's wound. Gu Xingyin's 5 fingers were almost all inserted into Chen Biue's chest. The situation was very similar to the legendary demon's heart. In such a situation, it should have been bloody. Old Master Chen didn't see any blood and his heart calmed down a little. Then, he saw Gu Xingyin's hand move. She slowly pulled her fingers out. As her fingers pulled out, Old Master Chen could clearly see that a thin black line seemed to be grasped by Gu Xingyin's hand. Slowly, it was pulled out of his son's heart. That thin line was still dancing crazily as if it had a life of its own. Old Master Chen was a little shocked when he saw it. However, Gu Xingyin grabbed it tightly with one hand and pulled it out. The thin line completely left Chen Biue's body and appeared in the air. After it was exposed in the air, it suddenly disappeared as if it had met its natural enemy. However, Gu Xingyin could see it. Seeing that it was still trying to drill into the only normal person present, Old Master Chen, Gu Xingyin snorted coldly, "White tiger." The white tiger roared and suddenly opened its mouth. A huge suction force appeared in the void and completely swallowed the cluster of black fog that was almost invisible to the naked eye. Old Master Chen looked at this scene in shock. Although he had always been interested in metaphysics, this was the first time he had come into such close contact with it. Remembering something, he hurriedly ran out from behind the white tiger and ran to Chen Biue's bed to look at him. Her son's chest was clean and smooth. Where was the slightest trace of injury? Knowing that he had misunderstood the master, old Master Chen blamed himself. I was really anxious just now. I'm really sorry for disturbing the master. Gu Xingyin waved her hand. No need. The puppet doll had been watching silently. Even when Gu Xingyin's fingers reached into its body, it did not react at all. He knew that Gu Xingyin was trying to save him. When he saw what Gu Xingyin pulled out of his body, he finally understood why his body had been rejecting him earlier. It wasn't just because he had been separated from his soul for too long. More importantly, the existence of this thing was rejecting him. Old Master Chen came back to his senses and asked with lingering fear, Master, that black thing just now, what was it? Any normal person would feel a chill down their spine when they saw that thing drilling into a person's body. However, Gu Xingyin said, you can put on your clothes now. Old Master Chen was stunned for a moment before he reacted. His son was still lying on the bed naked. He bent down to put on his son's clothes and heard the master slowly say, he was bewitched. Chapter 17:12. Black Magic. Grandpa Chen was shocked. Of course, he had heard of black magic. But wasn't this kind of evil thing usually exclusive to Thailand and other countries? How did Bai Yu offend someone like that in the capital? Grandpa Chen suppressed his thoughts and hurriedly asked what he was most concerned about. Master, what about my son? Gu Xingyin nodded. After a while, at midnight tonight, I'll perform a spell to see if I can summon his soul back. Old Master Chen's face was filled with gratitude. Thank you, Master. He looked at the time and said, Master, why don't you take a rest first? I'll ask the kitchen to make something to eat. When Gu Xingyin went out, it was close to night. She came over after dinner. Hearing that, she shook her head. But, can you prepare a room for me? I need to rest. Grandpa Chen had no problem with that. In a villa like the Chen family's, there were usually many empty guest rooms. They were cleaned on a daily basis so that guests could stay in them. Gu Xingyin followed Grandpa Chen outside, leaving the white tiger in the room. Grandpa Chen was confused. Gu Xingyin explained, the person behind this might know that I'm here to help young Master Chen. They might come to make trouble tonight. Grandpa Chen's expression turned serious when he heard that. He suddenly remembered what Gu Xingyin had said earlier. He suddenly asked in a low voice, Master, do you know who the person behind this is? Gu Xingyin didn't hide that she knew from the beginning. She nodded straightforwardly. She looked at Grandpa Chen's hesitant expression and suddenly said, Don't ask me who it is. I've already said what I need to say. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Grandpa Chen was a little confused when he saw Gu Xingyin enter the room. How could he not understand after hearing those words? This master had said those words to Chi-Chi the moment she entered the room. Chi-Chi's reaction was indeed a little strange. Could it be that Chi-Chi was the one who attacked Bai Yu just like what the master said? Old Master Chen did not want to believe this possibility at all. His biological son and daughter were both his flesh and blood. Before he had concrete evidence, he would never believe that his daughter would do such a crazy thing to her brother. Gu Xingyin entered the room. She sat on the chair and finally relaxed. Although he was still indifferent, he didn't have the cold arrogance that he had in front of old Master Chen. The puppet doll automatically flew out of her pocket. Gu Xingyin looked at him in surprise. What's the matter, baby? Doll looked at her without blinking, then opened its mouth and said clearly, Sleep. Gu Xingyin laughed. I'm not tired. In her opinion, it was probably because she took the initiative to ask for a rest, and the little fellow thought that she was tired. Chen Biyue looked at Gu Xingyin. As a contracted puppet, he knew that the consumption just now was nothing to Dian. But when he thought about how she had to perform a ritual for him in the middle of the night, he wanted her to rest more. Thus, Gu Xingyin looked at the little doll in front of her. It seemed that he didn't hear her at all. She repeated, "Sleep." "Fine." Gu Xingyin helplessly thought that since there was nothing else, she might as well sleep. Chapter 17:13. Unfortunately, she wanted to sleep, but someone didn't allow her. Gu Xingyin was lying on the bed, and the puppet doll was nestled in her neck contentedly. However, someone knocked on the door. Gu Xingyin didn't respond, and the person pushed the door open and came in. Seeing Gu Xingyin like this, ordinary people should know not to continue to disturb her. But the person didn't know this. Chen Qiqi looked at Gu Xingyin, who was lying on the bed with a satisfied face, and felt a little angry in her heart. Is this woman purposely going against me? At that time, she had said all kinds of good things, but she was unwilling to help her. But now, she actually agreed to father's request and came to save brother. At this time, Chen Qiqi still didn't know that Gu Xingyin was not asked to come by old Master Chen, but she came to do charity for free. If she knew, she would probably vomit blood in anger. Chen Qiqi walked to the window and looked at Gu Xingyin in a low voice. "Why did you come to the capital?" As soon as she said this, Chen Biyue, who was lying on Gu Xingyin's pillow and pretending to be a doll, was shocked. His sister actually knew Dian. Gu Xingyin even maintained her lying position, and didn't care about Chen Qiqi's arrival at all. People who didn't respect others couldn't expect to be respected by others. The moment Chen Qiqi entered the door, she completely returned to her cold persona. Chen Qiqi was standing, while Gu Xingyin was lying down. But Chen Qiqi felt that the way Gu Xingyin looked at her was still so arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Gu Xingyin seemed to be standing on a high place and looking down at her coldly. The capital is so big. Can you decide who can and can't come? In Chen Qiqi's entire life, she had never been treated with such blatant disdain. Because she was the daughter of the Chen family, she was surrounded by friends who knew her family background. Many people took the initiative to get close to and curry favor with her. In the past 2 years, Chen Qiqi had only felt this kind of look twice. The first time was when Dian rejected her. The second time, it was still the same person. Chen Qiqi's expression turned ugly. "I don't care why you came to the capital. I spent a lot of money to hire you that day, but you refused to help me. What about now? But now, you're willing to save my brother." Gu Xingyin still looked cold and indifferent. "Because you made me unhappy. And now, I'm in a good mood." Chen Qiqi's face was ashen. She seemed to have realized that it was useless to talk back to the person in front of her. Although the other party was not the quick-witted type, he had the ability to make people gnash their teeth in hatred with every sentence. She came a little closer. "I warn you, Dean," she said. "It's best that you don't interfere in this matter. Otherwise, you won't be able to protect the little valley and the puppets in the Divine Dragon Mountain range." Gu Xingyin pursed her lips in boredom. Chen Qiqi's words and actions were always like this. She would say nice things at the beginning, and then when she realized that the temptation didn't work, she would start to speak harshly. From the beginning to the end, her attitude was so annoying. Gu Xingyin closed her eyes. "Instead of worrying about me, you should worry about how to get over your brother's matter. Take care. I won't see you out." Chen Qiqi was so angry that she wanted to swear. Suddenly, she saw the little doll lying on Gu Xingyin's neck move. Then, it turned its head to look at her expressionlessly. A pair of green eyes stared at her. A cold feeling rose from the bottom of her heart. Chen Qiqi broke out in a cold sweat. She didn't even dare to say another word. She quickly opened the door and ran out. Chapter 1714. Chen Qiqi ran back to her room in one breath. After closing the door tightly, she was still a little scared. She always felt that the terrifying doll's eyes seemed to be haunting her all the time. Even if she couldn't see it now, she still felt that the pair of cold eyes with murderous intent stayed in her mind. She ran to the bed, turned on all the lights in the room, and wrapped herself tightly in the quilt. Then she took out her mobile phone and called the witch doctor, "Hello," in Gu Xingyin's room. After Chen Qiqi left, Gu Xingyin grabbed the puppet doll beside the pillow. "Who taught you to scare people like this?" Although the words were slightly reproachful, everyone could hear the laughter in the tone. The waist of the puppet doll was grabbed by Gu Xingyin. He struggled a few times, but he still couldn't free himself from Gu Xingyin's big palm. Gu Xingyin wanted to let him go at first, but when he saw the fair and tender little dumpling waving his short limbs and struggling in his hand, he suddenly had a bad taste in his mouth. She smiled and looked at the little ball waving his hands and feet. Until the little ball seemed to understand her thoughts, he calmed down and stopped moving. Gu Xingyin laughed out loud. She still lay on the bed, put the little ball on her body, and let go of her hand. Chen Biyue looked at her silently. He felt that he couldn't tell her that the soul in the puppet doll was Chen Biyue. Gu Xingyin looked at the fat ball sitting with a straight face. She couldn't help but smile. "Are you angry?" Chen Biyue looked at her smile and was stunned. He didn't even hear what she asked clearly. Gu Xingyin looked at the puppet doll's expressionless face. Even its eyes were in a daze. He couldn't help but raise his body slightly and kiss the doll's delicate and cold face. "Don't be angry. I'm just kidding." As Gu Xingyin had inherited Diane's memories, he roughly understood that these puppets that could develop self-awareness were no different from ordinary human children in terms of intelligence. They were attached to their creator like family members. That was why Gu Xingyin kissed him. Chen Biyue never thought that he could get such a benefit. He couldn't help but reach out and touch the left side of his face where he was kissed. Fortunately, the puppet couldn't blush. Otherwise, Chen Biyue felt that his face would be burning. Then, Gu Xingyin saw a small figure pouncing on him, and he felt a chill on his face. The puppet doll followed suit and planted a kiss on his face. Gu Xingyin felt that her heart was going to melt. Chen Biyue buried his head in Gu Xingyin's neck and secretly despised himself for pretending to be young. But if he had to choose again, the righteous young master of the Chen family said that he would still kiss her. Gu Xingyin and the puppet doll were in a good mood. On the other side, Chen Qiqi's phone call with the taming master ended. After ending the call, Chen Qiqi's heart calmed down a little. But when she looked at the time, her body reflexively shivered. Ever since she was poisoned by the yin energy, although the taming master helped her control it, it became harder and harder to control the yin energy in her body every night. Chapter 1715. Just like now. Chen Qiqi only felt that the coldness seeping out from the innermost part of her body, from her 5 viscera and 6 bowels, was about to freeze her. She turned the heater in the room to the maximum. Her forehead was sweating because it was hot. But her body was still shivering inside. Before Chen Qiqi had experienced this feeling, she would never have thought that there would be such a way of torturing people in this world. Chen Qiqi, who had experienced it countless times, knew that this was just the beginning. When it was later, the coldness would be worse. At that time, it would be better to die than to live. 11 o'clock. The whole villa of the Chen family was quiet. The servants had gone to bed. Hearing Gu Xingyin's words, old Master Chen didn't tell anyone that he would perform the ritual for his son at midnight. A black shadow quietly appeared at the gate of the Chen family. Then, the shadow passed through the alloy gate that was strong enough to block bullets as if it was a real shadow. Following the darkness, it came to the door of a room on the 2nd floor. According to what he knew, this was Chen Biyue's room. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared in front of the closed door. The room was quiet. There was only a human-shaped bulge on the bed. It was Chen Biue, the eldest young master of the Chen family, who was sleeping there. The black shadow rushed at Chen Biue in a very fast way. From the looks of it, it seemed like it was going to crash into his body. Just as it was about to reach the bed, an earth-shattering roar of a tiger suddenly rang in its ears. Then, a strong suction force came from behind. The white fox swallowed the black shadow in one gulp. Puff! In an apartment not far from the Chen family, the tame headmaster, whose head was full of official inscriptions, changed his expression and spat out a mouthful of blood. The opponent is too strong, he seemed to have a premonition. He forced his injured body to pack up the things in the room and went out. No one in the Chen family's villa was awakened. Those who should be asleep were asleep. Those who couldn't sleep were waiting for the arrival of midnight. Except for the black shadow, no one else seemed to have heard the earth-shattering roar of the tiger. 11:30. Gu Xingyin's door was gently knocked. She turned on the light and got up to open the door. As expected, the person standing outside was Old Master Chen, who was neatly dressed. Old Master Chen was still dressed the same way he did during the day. He looked very energetic. Obviously, he was one of the people who couldn't sleep that night. "Sorry to disturb you, Master. It's just that the time is coming and I'm very nervous." Old Master Chen didn't lie about his feelings at all. When his eldest son, Chen Biue, had been in a coma for so long, he had looked for countless masters. But every time his hope had been ignited, it had been extinguished by the ruthless reality. This time, no matter what, at least this grandmaster was more trustworthy than the previous ones. Gu Xingyin said faintly, "I can understand the affection between father and son. Let's go." She walked into Chen Biue's room. When she turned on the light, she suddenly said, "By the way, not long ago, someone tried to attack the person in bed." Old Master Chen was shocked. Bai Yu was already in such a state, yet there were still people who didn't want to let him go. No, it was very likely that someone knew that he might wake up, so they couldn't wait to make a move before that happened. Old Master Chen's heart turned cold. How many people knew about this today? Chapter 17:16. Old Master Chen closed his eyes tightly, not allowing himself to think about that possibility. When his eldest son woke up, a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. Those who did something wrong had to pay the price. Gu Xingyin walked to Chen Biue's bed. She looked at the pale man. He was not dead, which meant that his soul was still alive in some corner of this world. As long as his soul was still alive, she was confident that she could pull him back. She turned around. "Mr. Chen, please stay away from me." White tiger. The white tiger howled to show that it understood. It followed Old Master Chen to a corner. Its master asked it to protect Old Master Chen. Gu Xingyin did not need to do much preparation. She cut her middle finger and dripped a drop of blood on Chen Biue's forehead. Strangely enough, when the blood landed on Chen Biue's forehead, it didn't move and automatically condensed into a round and smooth blood bead. It was as if a cinnabar mole had grown in the middle of that person's forehead. Contrasting with his pale skin, there was a strange and bewitching beauty to it. Then Gu Xingyin picked up one of Chen Biue's hands and used her fingernails to cut the tip of his middle finger, squeezing out a drop of blood. The drop of blood fell on Gu Xingyin's palm and did not dissipate. Instead, it turned into a small crimson blood bead and rolled around. Gu Xingyin sat cross-legged on the floor. She threw the blood bead into the air. The blood bead fell to Gu Xingyin's head and stopped falling. It was as if it was imprisoned in the air by some mysterious force and kept spinning. Gu Xingyin started to close her eyes and murmured something softly. Old Master Chen listened and felt that the words were very obscure. He could not understand. As he listened, He felt that his vision was a little blurry and his mind started to feel dizzy. At this moment, he suddenly felt a pain in his hand. Old Master Chen woke up and realized that the white tiger beside him had bitten him. However, it obviously knew its limits and did not bite through his skin. Knowing that it was helping him, Old Master Chen thanked it. White Tiger let out a low roar. Old Master Chen realized that he couldn't hear anything. He looked towards Gu Xingyin's direction and saw that the small pearl on her head was emitting rings of red light. The faint blood-red light rippled outwards, spreading to an unknown distance. Gu Xingyin knew. As long as she wanted to, this light could cover all the places that her spiritual consciousness could reach. As long as Chen Biyue's soul was within this range, it would be drawn back here by his blood. Her pocket suddenly moved. However, Gu Xingyin, who was in a meditative state, could not see it. Old Master Chen looked strangely at the white and fat doll that came out of the master's pocket. He didn't know that this was a puppet, and he found it strange. Could it be that the Grandmaster's child was so different from the rest? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to breathe if you keep it in your pocket? Then, he was surprised to find that the little doll, which was only the size of his hand, was flying. Old Master Chen silently retracted his previous thoughts. If the Grandmaster's child could fly, what was so strange about raising it in her pocket? Chen Biyue floated in midair. At this moment, he could already feel the strong calling from his body. The doll's body suddenly started to tremble violently. Gu Xingyin seemed to have sensed something and opened her eyes in confusion. Chapter 17:17. She looked at the puppet doll not far away from her. It seemed to be experiencing some kind of pain, and its face was distorted. Old Master Chen looked at this scene worriedly. He couldn't hear anything, so he didn't understand what was going on. Of course, even if he could hear, he wouldn't know what was going on. Gu Xingyin had a vague guess. Her incantation stopped in its tracks. Those blood-red lights were meant to find Chen Biyue's spirit, but it seemed like there was no need for that now. The blood droplet above her head suddenly turned into a blur and flew straight towards the puppet doll's forehead in midair. The droplet of blood seeped into the puppet doll's forehead and disappeared under its skin. Gu Xingyin suddenly stood up. When she saw this scene, what else did she not know? It turned out that the eldest young master of the Chen family had been by her side all this time. She stood up and stared at the puppet doll, who seemed to be in extreme pain. Although Chen Biyue's mind was occupied by the tearing pain in his body, he kept a part of his attention on Gu Xingyin. He saw Gu Xingyin stand up and look at him. Her expression changed from one of worry to one of understanding, and finally to one of calmness. At that moment, he actually panicked. After all, he had been with Gu Xingyin for such a long time, and he had a certain understanding of her personality. This person was naturally cold-hearted. If he wasn't her puppet, he wouldn't even be able to get a glance from her, right? Furthermore, he definitely couldn't let her know that he had memories of the time he spent with her. Chen Biyue could only think of this. Soon, he couldn't think of anything else. Because it was just too painful. It was the kind of living thing that separated one's soul from the puppet body that one was used to. At this moment, White Tiger also removed the restrictions on Old Master Chen's body. Old Master Chen looked at the scene in front of him in a daze. He looked at Gu Xingyin. Grandmaster, what's going on? Gu Xingyin glanced sideways at him and said faintly, your son's soul accidentally entered the puppet I refined. Now, it's being separated from the puppet's body. Old Master Chen's eyes widened. Didn't they say that their son was bewitched? How did he become a puppet? However, there was an even greater worry in his heart that he didn't voice out. Then. Grandmaster, will Baiyu be alright? Gu Xingyin shook her head. Don't worry, it's just some pain. Once his soul is free, I'll find a way to let him return to his body. When the time comes, you can go find a righteous Dao Xian sect sorcerer and ask for a soul-subduing talisman for him. After a period of time, there will be no problem. Old Master Chen was relieved when he heard this. It didn't take long. 12 o'clock midnight sharp. The puppet doll in midair suddenly began to emit wisps of black mist, spreading towards the surroundings. The temperature in the room instantly dropped. Gu Xingyin said in a low voice, "Stay away." Old Master Chen hurriedly retreated. Gu Xingyin reached out with her left hand. The black mist that was spreading outward seemed to have found a target and rushed towards her body. Old Master Chen could clearly see that Gu Xingyin's long black hair had already condensed into a large patch of white frost. Chapter 17-18. He looked at it worriedly, but he knew that he could not help at all. Slowly, the black weapons dissipated. At the same time, the pain on the puppet doll's face disappeared. In Gu Xingyin's sight, he could see a transparent white halo coming out of the puppet doll's body. The halo did not move after leaving the puppet doll's body. It just floated in the air quietly. It was also at that moment that Gu Xingyin's heart trembled. The contract between her and the puppet doll was broken. She looked at the white halo. Although she could not guess its direction, she could feel that it was staring at her. "Well," she said coldly, "now, you can go back to your body." The ball of light didn't move. Gu Xingyin raised his hand and waved his sleeve gently. The white ball of light flew uncontrollably toward Chen Biue's body and sank into his body. Old Master Chen heard Gu Xingyin talking to the void just now. He couldn't see anything, but he could roughly guess that there was something there. He asked carefully, "Master Dean, what was that?" Gu Xingyin said, "Your son's soul has returned to his body." As she spoke, she walked forward and stretched out a hand to feel Chen Biue's glabella. With a frown, Gu Xingyin reached out his hand and took out a small puppet from his bag. The puppet was very small, about the size of a human thumb. There was a lifelike beast carved on it. Grandpa Chen felt that the beast was familiar, but he could not recognize it. Gu Xingyin did not want to explain it to him. She gave the thing to Chen Xiaoye. "Chen Xiaoye's soul will not be stable these days. You can put this under his pillow or hang it on his neck. He will wake up after 3 days. He can't leave this thing for 10 days. Grandpa Chen remembered it all. At this moment, a "kacha" sound suddenly came from the room. Grandpa Chen and Gu Xingyin looked over at the same time. The puppet doll in the air started to crack from its forehead to its whole body. Then it fell down and shattered into pieces. Grandpa Chen could not help but take a big step back. In his eyes, the puppet doll looked just like a real baby. When he saw this scene, he really couldn't accept it. Gu Xingyin said lightly, "It's just a puppet." As she spoke, she slowly walked over, bent down, and placed a clean handkerchief on the ground. Then, she picked up all the shards one by one. Old Master Chen's fearful expression suddenly froze. He looked at Gu Xingyin's movements. She was so careful and cherishing it. In hindsight, he realized that this doll was probably very precious to the puppet master in front of him. But because of Bai Yu, the doll became like this. Grandpa Chen sighed. He was not a saint. He could not run to Gu Xingyin and say some kind words. Even if he knew that he had to pay a price for his son's return, he would still do it. He just walked up to Gu Xingyin and said in a low voice, "The Chen family will never forget Master's great kindness. If there's anything you need in the future, the Chen family will not hesitate to help." Chapter 17-19. Gu Xingyin carefully wrapped the pieces she picked up and put them into her backpack. She got up and turned to old Master Chen, saying, "I told you that I decided to save your son because I'm in a good mood. If I'm in a bad mood, I won't look back even if your son dies immediately. So, you don't have to thank me. Old Master Chen was still smiling, although it's a piece of cake for you, it's a life-saving grace for the Chen family. The Chen family will never be ungrateful people. His words made Gu Xingyin secretly admire him. But on the surface, she just said coldly, "It's up to you." She called the white tiger and turned to walk to the window. Old Master Chen shouted behind her, "Master, it's getting late. You should rest for the night and tomorrow." The rest of his words disappeared in his throat. Old Master Chen looked at the strangely dressed puppet master sitting on the white tiger. The man and the tiger leaped toward the window and disappeared. He hurriedly looked out of the window. He saw that the white tiger had landed safely. After a few leaps, the man's figure could no longer be seen. He was indeed a weird-tempered master. The next day, Gu Xingyin bought a plane ticket back to her valley. Since the matter here had been solved, there was no need for her to stay. As for Qinqiqi, when Gu Xingyin left the capital, she secretly gave her a small gift. In the original plot, she burned Dean to death with fire. In this life, Gu Xingyin would let her have a taste of the same feeling. But it was not fire, but ice. She planted the seed of evil in Qinqiqi's body. As long as she wanted, she could take Qinqiqi's life at any time and make her suffer a fate worse than death. But she was not in a hurry. Gu Xingyin still wanted to see how the Chen family would deal with the woman who dared to kill her own brother. Qinqiqi could no longer cause any trouble. Gu Xingyin listened to the system's words. The taming master probably knew that the opponent was too powerful and was afraid that he would be implicated. He had already run out of the imperial capital that very night. Thinking of this, Gu Xingyin sneered, Qinqiqi even found such an unreliable man. Abandoning his woman at the critical moment was not something an ordinary man could do. Thinking about it, the taming master and Qinqiqi were just cooperating with each other. It was obviously unrealistic to expect people like them to die for others. 3 days later. A refreshing breeze blew in through the open window. The curtains moved slightly. The man's eyelashes. Chen Chen's mind was in a mess. He felt like he had a very strange dream. The dreamland was grotesque and variegated, filled with all sorts of inconceivable things. Ugh! He hugged his head and moaned in pain. Old Master Chen, who stayed in his son's room most of the time, thought that he was hallucinating. He suddenly turned to look at his son. Sure enough, he saw that the eyes that had been closed for more than a month trembled a few times and opened. "Bue." Old man Chen's voice trembled. His eyes turned red at this moment. Chen Bue was still not used to the sudden bright environment. He paused for a while before calling out, "Dad." After saying that, Chen Bue realized that his voice was abnormally hoarse. "What's wrong with me?" 3 chapters first, see you later. It's almost the end of the month. If you have a monthly ticket, give me a ticket. Chapter 17:20. Grandpa Chen hurriedly helped him to sit up. Only then did Chen Bue realize that his body was completely soft and had no strength at all. Just this small movement of getting up made his head dizzy. Grandpa Chen poured a cup of warm water that he had prepared for a long time and handed it over. Chen Bue took it and drank it. It was a little salty. Obviously, he had thought about his body and added something. After slowly drinking the cup of water, Chen Bue sorted out his messy thoughts. Grandpa Chen just looked at him and waited for him to slowly come to his senses. Chen Bue recalled his previous memories. That morning, he suddenly felt his vision go black and then he lost consciousness. Later, he seemed to be in a gray place. He couldn't see anything and couldn't come into contact with anyone. Later, his expression was a little blank. The only thing he remembered was the pain that seemed to tear his soul apart, but he couldn't remember anything else. What exactly did he experience? Old Master Chen looked at his son's blank expression. He was afraid that this experience would damage his memory, so he quickly asked, "What's wrong?" He hurriedly asked, "Bue, do you still remember what happened before?" Chen Bue replied, "I remember that on the morning of the 14th, I was preparing to go to the company, then." He didn't say anything else. But Grandpa Chen knew what happened next. He had just returned from his morning exercise when he heard that the family was in chaos. He heard that the young master had fainted. At that time, they all thought that Chen Bue was under too much pressure at work. However, after he was sent to the hospital, the doctor couldn't find anything wrong with him. Grandpa Chen didn't believe it. He went to several hospitals and found all kinds of experts, but still couldn't find the reason for Chen Bue's condition. It wasn't until later that Grandpa Chen started to come into contact with some metaphysical masters that he realized that his eldest son might have been plotted against. Thinking of this, he was silent for a moment and suddenly asked, "Bue, do you know who is targeting you this time?" Chen Bue looked up at his father. The moment he heard this sentence, the name of his sister, Chen Qiqi, flashed across his mind. Then, he turned back time. The day before he fainted, when he came back from work, he happened to see his sister enter his room. At that time, he thought it was strange and asked Chen Qiqi what she was doing. How did Chen Qiqi reply at that time? Her expression was a little unnatural. She forced a smile and said, "Well, I don't have anything to do today, so I came to see if you need me to help clean up." Now that he thought about it, this sentence was full of holes. There were servants in charge of cleaning the house. Why would he need Chen Qiqi? But at that time, he didn't care so much and just smiled and refused. He hesitated for a moment. Old Master Chen saw that he didn't speak, so he suddenly asked, "Is it Qiqi?" Chen Bue looks up in surprise. "Dad, why do you say that?" Old Master Chen's face was a little cold. "Your condition was cured by a master." That master almost said clearly who was behind all of this. "Master?" Chen Bue frowned. Why couldn't he remember anything? He felt that he must have forgotten something important in his mind. However, that area was dusky, and as soon as he got close, he felt a stabbing pain in his head. Chapter 1721. He couldn't help but cover his forehead with his hand. Seeing his son like this, old Master Chen was a little flustered. "What's wrong? Does your head hurt?" Chen Bue shook his head. He found that as long as he didn't think about that, he wouldn't feel that tingling sensation. So, what did he forget? He asked, "What's wrong? Why don't I know anything about it?" Hearing this, old Master Chen explained, "I don't know either. I only know that the master is called Diin. She's a puppet master." Diin. Puppet master. When Chen Bue heard these two names, a pale and delicate face flashed before his eyes. Right. She was Diin. How could she be? Apart from her appearance, Chen Bue couldn't remember anything else. Chen Bue had already made a decision in his heart, "I'm going to find her." Old Master Chen was still saying. "This master came looking for you himself. After treating you, he left." Chen Bue nodded. He remembered the topic that the father and son had talked about before. "Dad, call Qiqi over," Chen Bue said. Old Master Chen's expression froze. But after a moment, he didn't say anything and left with his cane. When he came in again, apart from Old Master Chen and Chen Qiqi, a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes followed behind him. He was the butler that the father and son trusted the most. Chen Qiqi was very nervous when she entered the door. Because she knew that her brother was awake. Generally speaking, people with ulterior motives would be worried about all kinds of things. For example, Chen Qiqi felt that her brother already knew the truth. When her brother woke up, it would be the time for her to be exposed. In fact, to a certain extent, she was right. Chen Bue looked straight at Chen Qiqi. His gaze made Chen Qiqi very uncomfortable. Chen Qiqi shrank a little. She tried to calm herself down and said to Chen Biyue with a smile, "Brother, you're finally awake." She didn't get a response from Chen Biyue. Chen Biyue still stared at her and said in a hoarse voice, "Chen Qiqi, I think I'm a qualified brother. Why did you do such a thing?" Chen Qiqi panicked. "Brother, what are you talking about? What is it? Did you misunderstand something?" Old Master Chen also looked at his daughter. He hoped more than anyone else that Chen Qiqi did not do this. Chen Biyue only said coldly, "Don't quibble anymore. Chen Qiqi, I know your deal with that tame headmaster, and even your conversation. You won't even let your own brother off. You're really heartless." Chen Qiqi shuddered. He even knew about black magic masters. As expected, as long as Chen Biyue didn't die, nothing could be hidden. Her panicked expression suddenly calmed down. Chen Qiqi looked coldly at Chen Biyue and Grandpa Chen. She said coldly, "Yes. Chen Biyue, I had someone cast black magic on you." Although Old Master Chen was mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but sway when he heard his daughter admit it. This evil creature. Chen Qiqi probably felt that she had already been exposed, so she didn't have to hold back anymore. She looked at Old Master Chen. There was no longer any admiration or worship in her eyes. Instead, it was slowly filled with resentment. Resentment. Old Master Chen realized that his daughter actually hated him. Chapter 1722. Chen Qiqi said coldly, "I know that in other people's eyes, I'm the spoiled daughter of the Chen family. I wear big brands and live in villas." Her eyes were filled with disdain. "But what's the use of that? Because I'm a daughter, because I'm the youngest, this huge Chen family won't be mine in the future. Compared to those huge assets, what I've enjoyed is nothing." Chen Biyue's voice was calm. "So you're unwilling to give up and want to kill your own brother?" He had always been in Chen Qiqi's eyes. When he said that, Chen Qiqi panicked. But soon, she had nothing to lose. "Yes. As long as you're dead, I'll be the only heir of the Chen family. So what if Dad doesn't like me? The Chen family can only be left to me. I will let him see that this daughter of mine is no worse than you, her big brother." Pfft. Chen Biyue snorted in disdain. Chen Qiqi narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean? Chen Biyue, are you looking down on me like my dad?" She raised her voice. "What's there to be proud of? Chen Biyue, you were just born a few years earlier than me. You're a man who can carry on the family line. If I were in your position, I could do the same. Do you believe me?" Chen Biyue didn't respond to her. Instead, it was Old Master Chen who spoke. His voice was steady. "You're wrong, Qiqi." Chen Qiqi's eyes trembled. Old Master Chen said, "The Chen family has never chosen an heir based on age or gender. Have you forgotten your grandmother?" Chen Qiqi turned her face away, unwilling to believe it. Old Master Chen continued, "Do you remember the 10 million I gave you when you were 18? Chen Qiqi finally looked up. Old Master Chen looked at her. "I remember that you used it to buy a sports car and used the rest to buy bags and big brands. You went out with your friends. But you know, when your brother was 18, I gave him 10 million too." Chen Qiqi seemed to realize something and her face paled. Sure enough, Old Master Chen's next words made her fall into a daze. "At that time, your brother used this 10 million to invest with a few of his friends to establish the current Imperial Valley Hotel. The Imperial Valley Hotel was a famous 5-star hotel chain in the country. There were 2 of them in the capital alone, and they could be found in the bustling areas of every provincial capital." Old Master Chen sighed. "Have you always thought that the Imperial Valley under your brother's name was left to him by me? You're wrong. That's the result of his hard work. And you, Chi-Chi, your starting point is the same. Chi-Chi couldn't help but take 2 steps back. She suddenly said to Old Master Chen, "Why didn't you tell me, Dad? I thought it was just my birthday present. Who knows what kind of stupid test it is?" Old Master Chen's expression was calm. "Yes, this is just one of the tests. Let me tell you again. When you are 20 years old, I will let you." Chi-Chi never knew that ever since she became an adult, the seemingly casual things that her father asked her to do were actually tests set up by the family for the future successor. She, on the other hand, had completely and utterly lost. After Old Master Chen finished speaking, he looked at her quietly. "This was not a decision made by me alone. The entire Chen family watched. Chi-Chi, it's not that I'm biased, but the more power you have, the more responsibility you have to bear." 6 chapters. There were still updates, but whether it was 8 or 10,000 today depended on the situation. Chapter 1723. Chi-Chi, who was in a daze, was brought back to her room by the housekeeper. The father and son fell into silence. After a long while, Grandpa Chen spoke first. "Bue, what do you plan to do?" Chen Bue said, "Dad, you know my character." He raised his head without any expression on his face. "It's not about what I want to do, but, can you accept Chi-Chi?" Grandpa Chen sighed. Chen Bue knew in his heart that when his father asked this question, he had already expressed his attitude. If he didn't care and let Chen Bue do whatever he wanted, he wouldn't have probed like this. Grandpa Chen was silent for a long time before he finally said, "I only have you and your sister in my life. When your mother left, she told me to take good care of you. Chen Bue didn't speak when Grandpa Chen mentioned his mother who had passed away. Grandpa Chen waited for a long time before his son spoke. "I know." Grandpa Chen said in a low voice, "I'm sorry about this. I know it's unfair to you." Chen Bue shook his head. "There's no such thing as fairness in this kind of thing." Grandpa Chen got up and said, "Have a good rest. Don't think about anything during this period of time. Focus on getting your body back." Chen Bue nodded. After Grandpa Chen left, Chen Bue slowly lay down. He thought a lot. Chi-Chi's matter, his family's matter, and the mysterious puppet master. The last one was like a forbidden zone for Chen Bue. The only thing he knew was her appearance. It seemed to be deeply engraved in his mind. But other than that, Chen Bue couldn't think of anything else related to her. Wait until everything is over here. He was going to find her. Gu Xingyin was quite happy during this period of time. She returned to her small valley, bought a car, and bought a lot of things. In this way, Gu Xingyin comforted herself that she lived in a mountain villa. Her puppets had been summoned back by her. After all, Chi-Chi probably didn't want to take revenge on her anymore. She asked the system to monitor the Chen family's situation at all times. After Chen Bue woke up, he only spent the first month recuperating. Afterwards, he slowly began to move. Chi-Chi was under his control in the Chen family. Her phone, computer, and other electronic devices were all monitored. Chi-Chi had no way of contacting the outside world. The next step was to take out those who were ready to make trouble and teach them a lesson. When he regained control of the Chen family, Chen Bue finally put Chi-Chi's matter on the table. He couldn't lock Chi-Chi up at home for the rest of her life. Chen Bue's actions during this period of time made Grandpa Chen very satisfied. His son's methods were ruthless and experienced, completely unlike a young man in his 20s. With the Chen family in his hands, there was no need to worry about the future. In the end, the punishment for Chi-Chi came out. She was sent abroad and given a large sum of money, enough for her to live a luxurious life abroad. The only condition was that he had to live under Chen Bue's control for the rest of his life, and unless Chen Bue changed his mind, he was not allowed to return to the country. This was equivalent to a different form of house arrest. Chapter 1724. Of course, Chen Qiqi was dissatisfied. But no matter how dissatisfied she was, it was useless. Her father, who had always doted on her, shut his mouth. And her brother didn't say anything at all. Chen Biyue even said, "This is the best future I can give you. Chen Qiqi, don't forget that what you want is my life." Chen Qiqi looked at her brother's cold side profile and suddenly understood. The sibling relationship between her and him had been broken after what she had done. She didn't say anything more. She packed her things and chose to leave. She completely understood that if she didn't leave, what awaited her wouldn't be a good place. Chen Biyue listened to his subordinate's report that Chen Qiqi had successfully arrived at the place he had arranged. He told Old Master Chen. He said in a low voice, "If you can't bear to part with her, you can visit her in the future." Even so, he didn't mention anything about changing his mind. However, Old Master Chen shook his head and said, "No, it's better for her to bear the consequences of her own mistakes. Let her come back and kowtow to me when I'm 100 years old." Chen Biyue was silent. Spend the rest of her life in luxury? Gu Xingyin silently watched the Chen family's handling of the matter. She could understand. After all, Chen Qiqi was the Chen family's blood relative. It would be unreasonable if she really used any extreme means. However, Old Master Chen and Chen Biyue were Chen Qiqi's blood relatives, so she could be forgiven for anything. Gu Xingyin wasn't, and neither was Dean. On the first night of Chen Qiqi's new home, she couldn't sleep because of the cold. The next day, she went to the doctor in a mess and told them what had happened to her, but no one believed her, because there was nothing wrong with the test results. The news spread to the Chen family on the other side of the ocean. Even Old Master Chen only thought that his daughter was playing tricks to come back. For the first time, Chen Qiqi experienced what it was like to have no one to turn to for help. However, this was just the beginning. From that night onwards, every night, from midnight onwards, she would fall into that terrible feeling. She seemed to see her naked body surrounded by ice shackles. The piercing cold seeped into her limbs and bones, freezing her flesh and freezing her cells to death. The numbness and dull pain slowly eroded her body. When she woke up the next morning, Chen Qiqi even thought that she was dead. She went to the hospital like a madwoman, but the result was the same. Later, she stopped going to the hospital and went to the nearby church to pray, asking the priest to save her. However, it was useless. Every night, she felt like she would experience death. In just a short span of 10 days, Chen Qiqi woke up numbly one morning and was shocked to find that her hair had turned white. The woman in the mirror had a numb expression, lifeless eyes, and pale skin. She looked like a woman in her 30s. Was that really her? Chen Qiqi felt like she was going crazy. Gu Xingyin just looked on coldly. Since he had such thoughts, he had to be prepared to bear the consequences. Otherwise, how would Chen Qiqi know how those who died by her hands felt when they died? This was a verdant valley. Chen Biyue was wearing simple casual clothes, looking at the dense forest in a daze. He had asked a lot of people about it, and with his amazing intuition, he finally found this place. Would she really be here? Chapter 1725. Chen Biyue walked through the forest. Gu Xingyin, who had never paid special attention to non-mission targets, did not notice that someone had found this place. She was sitting on the grass in front of the small wooden house, with a piece of cloth spread out in front of her. On it was the broken puppet doll. Gu Xingyin was a little distressed. With the puppet doll in this state, it seemed that there was only one way left, to refine it again. Anyway, this doll had no consciousness of its own. Gu Xingyin was still a little sad when she thought of this. She really liked the doll that liked to stick to her. No wonder she felt that the doll was very smart. It turned out that it was not a consciousness condensed by a normal Yin spirit at all. It was originally a normal human being. How could a human who once had normal thinking not be smart? Gu Xingyin was lost in her thoughts when her expression suddenly changed. Someone was coming. When Chen Biue walked here, he saw two very unique buildings among the trees and flowers at a glance. One was a small wooden house. The structure of the small wooden house was similar to a normal house, but the outside was plated with a layer of red material. A completely red house was placed in the middle of a mountain forest where few people would go. The other building was even stranger. From Chen Biue's experience, it looked very much like the tent-like buildings commonly used by nomads. This building was completely opposite to the wooden house on the side. Every part of it was silver white. The color and brightness of the building were as if the outer layer was plated with a layer of silver. He did not see anyone. But Chen Biue knew that he was not in the wrong place. He could not suppress the excitement in his heart and continued to walk forward. He wanted to see the master who was said to have saved his life. He wanted to figure out why he was so obsessed with her. Before he got close to the house, he was suddenly blocked by a person who suddenly appeared from the grass. There was someone else here. Chen Biue was about to speak when he took a closer look and realized that the person in front of him was not a real person at all. She had the height of an ordinary person, and her appearance was lifelike. If he did not look carefully, he really could not tell that she was not a real person. However, if one were to take a closer look, one would be able to tell that no matter how lifelike the puppet was, it was still lacking in agility compared to a real person. Their eyes would never focus, and their expressions would never change. That is, unless their master gave them special instructions. Strangers are forbidden from approaching. The puppet suddenly spoke. His tone was a little stiff, as if something was grinding on a piece of wood, without the slightest hint of emotion. Chen Biue was surprised and cooperatively took 2 steps back. I'm Chen Biue. I'm here to thank Master Dian for saving my life. No one responded to him. Chen Biue didn't give up. He continued to shout, I'm Chen Biue. I'm here to thank Master Dian for saving my life. Gu Xingyin was listening in the room. Just as she was about to ask them to leave, she suddenly paused. She looked in the direction of the sound. There was a thick wall blocking her view, but at that moment, her gaze seemed to penetrate all obstacles and landed on the person outside the house. Gu Xingyin raised his eyebrows in surprise when he saw it. It's actually him. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.